Hi everyone, this is Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh. I want to thank my friend President Tom McKeever and all my friends in Local 888 for inviting me to share a few words. And thank you to all the delegates and members that are here today. This is a union of incredible, dedicated public service workers. During this historic recovery, you have been there to make sure workers know their worth and earned what they deserve. As a second-generation union laborer, I know the difference a union makes of the impact it had on my family's life. Your leadership has never mattered more, and there has never been a better time to move forward, grow, and organize. Right now, workers are demanding more from the economy. Support for unions is at its highest point since 1965, and you have the most pro-worker, pro-labor administration in our nation's history. We are protecting all workers, fighting misclassification, wage theft, retaliation, and discrimination. We believe every worker, no matter who they are or what they do, deserve a voice in their workplace and in their government. We are making historic progress under the American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. We have the opportunity to create more good jobs and increase worker powers for years to come. We are working across the federal government and across industries to create those good jobs that have equitable wages, better working conditions, and affordable health care. The fact is, our economy thrives when workers thrive, and that's what your work ensures. So keep organizing, keep fighting for your members. Thank you to everyone for being active in your union and for the work that you do every single day.
Thank you, folks, we're going to call this meeting to order. And I believe we're going to open the convention up with a speech from the U.S. Labor Secretary, Marty Walsh.
Damn. Louder.
Okay, while we work that out, we're having some technical difficulties. If we can begin the convention with the Pledge of Allegiance. We can all stand. All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic on which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's funny, when my daughter used to do the Pledge of Allegiance, on which it stands, she thought it was Richard Stans. And I was like, who is Richard Stans? And, so, are we prepared for Marty's video? Okay, so at this time, if we have a code of conduct that I'd like to present. So SEIU Local 888 is committed to providing an environment and harassment. We ask all meeting participants to embrace our values of equity and equality and conduct themselves in the event consistent with those values. Should you have any concerns, please contact myself or Attorney John Magner to be the point of contact for anyone who feels you are experiencing discrimination or any form of harassing pieces and otherwise unacceptable behavior. Thank you for your attention to our code of conduct. And I believe, so I'll just go right into my monologue. To kick off our convention, this is the first time that we've taken our efforts into the 21st century. We are utilizing Facebook Live, Zoom, Twitter, and Instagram and other social media pieces. So thank you for all the participants at home, as well as the participants here today. So let's begin. So I've been a union dues card member for over 25 years, and it is now my honor and privilege to be affiliated with such a proud organization. I'm incredibly grateful and humbled to have the opportunity to serve you all. When I first ran for president of SEIU 888, you entrusted me with a critical role, and I promised to work with each of you to build a bigger and better, stronger local. Well, I'm pleased to report that we made great progress in doing just that. From the start, it was clear that our local is large and diverse in so many ways. Local 888 has more than 8,000 members who are united in 200 collective bargaining agreements. Those members are spread out across 6 sectors and industries, and they consist of early childhood or early education, higher ed, municipalities, public authorities, schools, and state. And they have job titles ranging from DPW workers to paraprofessionals to custodian to compliance officers to dispatchers and many, many more. But despite this broad range, we know we face many of those challenges with wages and working conditions. Combining those shared experiences and working together, we can create real power. That's why we've worked to set standards with contract campaigns. We made investments in research and outreach. Nick Polio, economist, has been a game changer related to compelling, irrefutable wage studies that we worked in a collaborative nature. He has produced enhanced communication for the local that raises our profile. Over the last year, we've made tremendous progress by working together. A key component of work is our sectoral initiatives, which we haven't had before. That's where we convene chapter leaders in each of our industry sectors to compare contracts and establish examples of best contract language. The model contract languages ensure worker safety, better wages, and uses hard-fought lessons to make real impact in our lives and the lives of our members. We're focused on bargaining for the common good, linking members' bargaining objectives and the quality of service in the communities that they work. But we know just providing model language isn't enough. We need to build stronger chapters to address challenges beyond the bargaining table. Local 888 staff leadership had worked to train chapter leaders on how to use their funds to strengthen their chapters. That means giving chapter leaders additional initiatives to engage membership with raffles and special leader prizes. Our Bargaining 101 and our Know Your Rights are closer relationships between chapter leaders and improved participant relationships with their chapter assigned internal organizers, our business that you know also well. They also encourage more in-depth conversations with similar job titles and build stronger identification with their sector. And to ensure our chapters are well-resourced, we're working to recruit and train a broader range of local leadership to build a pathway for the future. But let's remember that local 888 chapter leaders can't win good contracts unless members are united in this union. In an open shop environment, it is essential to convert new hires to members. My administration has created a member welcome orientation that many of you have participated in to welcome new hires in SEIU Local 888. These monthly online orientations provide members with information on their rights and benefits. Ask them to activate their membership and member portal and encourage active participants in their chapters. And we continue to closely track the new hire and union member conversion rate, with the local recruiting a minimum of 75% of new hires to become local 888 members. That is a huge effort, but it's still not enough to continue our growth. We need to unite more workers. Last year, the local promoted one of our external organizers to the Department of Director's job to strengthen those efforts, Hirsch Rothmo. Let's give it up for Hirsch. We continue our active expansion into higher education, public defenders, public employees, including the Mass Gaming Commission, nonprofit organizations, and child care centers. If you saw the news, related to Boston University child care workers featured in the news a few months ago, you saw the fruits of this labor vanish. The more important component of the organizations intend to be proactive in fighting churn and organizing new members and gaining new contracts. We intend to solicit market share in areas where Local 888 already exists of units or departments that are not currently represented. We are successfully identifying non-represented workers that are not in our rank and file in municipalities, in our cities, and across the Commonwealth. We've been working closely with the External Organizer Department to develop strategies in approaching them and organizing into existing contracts for the first contract generation. Local 888 will shop successful first contracts like Emerson. We have some folks here from Emerson. Like Boston University early childhood educators, like we just mentioned, and like Community Catalyst, where Madeline Soto, our business rep, has been so very involved and taking the necessary grounds for a first contract. Thank you, Madeline. Data advantage and the benefits of collective bargaining is real. Beyond organizing, we're using political action to win quality services and stronger communities. In 2021, 888 recruited a member from rank and file. He was a 20-year veteran, employed by Boston PD as a dispatcher. So our extreme benefit, Anthony Landry. Thankfully accepted the job as political director and built out a powerful and strong political team. Working with the best political organizer in John Peavy. Yeah, this team works closely with our political friends and allies and legislatures in both City of Boston and with the Commonwealth. As representatives of Local 888, they push pro-worker agendas that benefit both member and their families. They also successfully teach engaged members on education, politics. Local 888's Committee of Public Counsel or Political Action enables members to fight for pro-worker laws, retirement enhancements, and adequate funding for quality services that many of us rely on. We continue to work this year to increase COPA members through a number of initiatives, including the development of COPA online signups and recruiting new leaders and providing expanding member education. It's also important for our members to see that we are always looking for new ways to add value to them. To that end, we've added benefits beyond their contract through new programs. This includes the City of Boston Housing Trust. Actually, our very own Rachel Idawu, who's part of our e-board as a retiree, she leads the efforts in the Boston Housing Trust, and she's a point of contact within our local that can answer any and all questions that you have. We continue to build out the union's health and welfare and dental and vision insurance programs. In 2020, Local 888 has created a retiree dental plan. Since then, a number of members have tripled through that program, and I would like to recognize and celebrate all the efforts of Linda DeLuca. We're extremely fortunate to have her on our staff. We're exploring the creation of employer and or grant funding, training and education funding to assist members with any required certifications or other educational and training needs. We need to continue and collaborate with the International Union and the SEIU State Council to build our 4 membership causes: AFRAM, Latino, Lavender, and Women's Caucuses. Here at Braintree, we've made several changes to benefit members. We're working to save them time and money by encouraging and utilization of Local 888's online member portal. we're looking to attract and retain high-performing staff and better define roles and responsibilities of the locals e-board. We've enhanced our record keeping, improving communication. During any time traveling across the Commonwealth, I saw and heard many things needing to be addressed. Our membership can demonstrate greater engagement with Local 888, and I understand a certain level of apathy that exists. I witnessed many chapters needing special attention and plan to spend my time in the field to deliver those improvements. Our chapters need advanced steward training and structure improvements, and I'm proud to say that we've been successful in implementing that. Local 888 needs to establish regular statewide labor management meetings. That's a work in progress. Forging better working relationships with the employer. That is a work in progress. This administration must remain visible in membership and create pathways for member engagement. Other management styles will differ from past administrations, but I'm committed to thousands of members to Local 888, would roll up my sleeves and jump right into the trenches. The leadership of this organization will only be successful if our staff is equally as successful. We have already made necessary changes to provide tools for our staff to excel. We have enhanced policy, procedure, and protocols on shared drives for our staff to use and to implement in their contract negotiations. I'm in the trenches with our staff, and I see their passion. I know the administration and its departments are collectively working as a team, and it makes a difference. There is not any lifetime, in my lifetime, a greater group of folks that I've had the privilege to work with, to plan with, to strategize with, to learn, and to take action with than the Local 888 family on behalf of the membership. This dedicated staff and I are committed to you, the members. We hope that you are dedicated to us. You will do and continue to do great things. Local 888 will be a conduit of peace and harmony, improved wages and benefits. Local 888 intends to deliver action on campaigns of public information and show management that our members are not second-class citizens when necessary. Local 888 can accomplish these items if we work and preserve times in the bad. Local 888 will continue to build relationships with local leaders and reassuring them that we are there for them and are of the state you hail from. We're committed to growing our ranks, rank and file, and our power base, but we must never lose personal connections that make us stronger together. Bear with me, we're almost there. So just a quick update on arbitrations and unfair labor petitions that we've had filed on behalf of the legal department. We have 37 arbitrations that were filed. Most cases were filed with the American Arbitration Association. In the city of Boston, Yarmouth, lottery cases were filed with the Labor Relations Connection, which has proven to be a cost savings alternative with faster arbitration dates. 25 cases were settled, reduction in discipline, favorable contract language, offers to resign and collect unemployment. Our return to work of terminated employees has been on the rise. 2 wrongful termination cases were won by the arbiter decision, including the return to work for our wrongful terminations of the Boston Public School employee, and also to return to work at the Holyoke Soldiers Home, who was discharged in the middle of a pandemic. Both termination cases were appealed by management to the Superior Court on grounds that the arbiters exceeded their authority. Litigation is ongoing. 3 cases were lost by the arbiter decision, finding just cases for termination. 7 arbitrations filed during the time are still pending. 14 petitions of unfair labor practice were filed by Local 888. Yep, forgive me. So quickly, 12 charges were settled and favorable matter before our pre-hearing from the union, most significantly, full retro pay for Belmont and hybrid work opportunities in Belmont and Boston. 2 charges are pending, full hearing, 3 DLR petitions were filed against the union and settled, and 2 are pending. Thank you. I just wanted to give you that report on behalf of our legal team. And it is my honor at this time to introduce you to the mayor of Salem. Kim Driscoll was the first elected mayor, the first woman elected mayor of Salem. Kim Driscoll essentially was handed a deficit, which she immediately turned into a reserve. She has efficiently brought in talent and from and enhanced technology within the city of Salem. If we can give her a warm reception from Local 888, I'd like to introduce the next Lieutenant Governor, Kim Driscoll.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's so great to be with you. Let's hear it for President Tom McKeever. He's doing a great job. It's really an honor to be with you this morning. We were at a labor walk earlier today, and I'm heading back to Salem along with a few 100,000 other folks to make sure things are handled there, and we'll be in Peabody and Winthrop. We're really working hard. We want to earn every vote in this race and excited for the opportunities ahead. And I want to thank you, all of you, for your service to Massachusetts. The work you do is truly the backbone of what is keeping our universities, our communities, so much of the work that's important at the local level, keeping it going. And I just can't say enough and emphasize enough the powerful role you play in Massachusetts at so many different levels, and certainly as part of what we hope to be a strong future. As I said, I'm grateful to be here as part of the Healy-Driscoll ticket and so excited for the potential before us. Together, and I do mean together, we hope to tackle the rising cost of living and work toward a more equitable future in Massachusetts. Now, I've been mayor in Salem since 2005, but I'm not a native of Massachusetts. I'm actually a Navy brat. I was born in Hawaii. My father joined the Navy early. He grew up in Lynn, Mass. Mom is from Trinidad, and I came to Salem to go to college. And I never left. I fell in love with the city, fell in love with my husband, Nick, who is a proud member of Local 3. He's a bricklayer in the Bricklayers Union, second generation. We like to say he's putting that political science degree to good use, throwing in brick and block throughout greater Boston. But together we've raised our 3 children in a community that is welcoming and inclusive and feel so fortunate to live in this very special place. And I like to say when you're mayor, there's no hiding, right? You got to make decisions every day. And you're on the front lines of, frankly, the issues that matter most to many of us. Improving public schools, supporting housing affordability, boosting economic empowerment, and leading on climate action and resiliency. As a mayor, I'm a proud member of the Get Stuff Done wing of government. So many of our biggest challenges you get to see up close and personal, from education to housing and infrastructure to climate. The success of our cities and towns really relies on having a strong state partner, and the success of our Commonwealth relies on having thriving neighborhoods, communities who are doing the work every single day. I know firsthand that we need someone in the governor's office who's fully dedicated to supporting the work at the local level, and for making sure those of us who are doing that work can do so in a sustaining fashion. I want to be that person. It's what drives me. It's certainly what drives Maura Healy. We see every challenge as an opportunity. We can't just have some of our residents doing well or only have a fraction of our communities thriving. We want to be a Commonwealth that works for and welcomes all. One of my favorite parts of campaigning over the last several months has been the opportunity to see every corner of Massachusetts. Way out west, down the South Coast, up in Merrimack Valley. It's a big Commonwealth when you've got to get around it. And there's definitely unique gifts that each of these different regions and communities hold, but there's a lot of challenges that really knit us together, like the increasing cost of putting food on the table, the high cost of keeping a roof over your head, And I say that as someone who is from Salem, a place where you used to be able to pour coffee and pour beer for a living and afford rent. Right now, over half of renters in Massachusetts are considered housing insecure, paying more than 30% of their income towards housing costs. It's one of our biggest challenges. The difficulty getting to and from the places we work, not just public transit in Greater Boston, but every corner of the Commonwealth is struggling with getting around on car, by car, on foot, on bike. It's just not easy. The growing unaffordability of Massachusetts is our greatest challenge. And I think about that as a mom now of 3 kids that are young adults. Like, this may be the first time that the current generation doesn't do as well as their parents. They're coming out of college with debt. It's hard to buy a house or afford rent. Childcare gaps exist. If you can find childcare, it's really expensive. Our path forward is going to require both vision and creativity and a deep understanding that the people of the Commonwealth, they need to be at the center of what we do moving forward. Here in Massachusetts, the birthplace of so many firsts. I live in a city that's nearly 400 years old. The history is right there before us. We don't settle. We lead. The next team in office will be facing some tough challenges. There's no doubt about it. There will be no honeymoon come January. We're going to have to get to work to move Massachusetts forward in a way that's more affordable, to tackle the housing crisis, to take on the transportation woes, to reduce the childcare gaps, to close the education deficits that we know exist in so many of our schools, and to confront our climate challenges in a real and meaningful way. Now, look, it won't be easy, but the one thing I know is we're a team that is trying to do this work together. It's pretty clear to me the folks on the other side of this ticket want to divide us. They want to roll back every kind of freedom you can imagine. And they're not interested really in putting working families first. When I talk about working families, I'm talking about my family. My husband gets up early every morning, comes home dirty, loves what he does. I'm grateful and benefit from the safety and security of a collective bargaining agreement, knowing that he's going to have safer working conditions and that for all of that hard work, he's going to be able to enjoy hopefully a comfortable retirement someday. So we really are working hard to make sure the work that we're doing as we move forward puts working families first, understands the vulnerabilities that exist. Maura and I firmly believe that the way to move Massachusetts forward is to elect experienced leaders and then be ready to demand more and work hard to achieve it. And you can't do that work alone. It is going to take all of us. I'm so grateful to be with you this morning. It's the type of work that I've done as mayor, bringing people together, getting an aligned goal, and then working your tail off to achieve it. We're excited to be part of the Get Stuff Done team for Massachusetts. We're pumped about this less than 20 days now to go in this election. We're grateful to be endorsed by SEIU, but even more excited about the opportunity to earn your vote and then work together over the next 4 years. Thanks for having me this morning. Thanks for all the work you're doing. And thanks for the work we're going to do together. Thanks so much. I'm going to ask for one small favor. Pray for me to get back into my community with the 100,000 people that are going there right now. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
If I can quickly add, she also visited my community. We had a large community event in my area of Dorchester where, unfortunately, there were recent shootings and other tragic incidents that transpired. We had a large event, and I didn't know who she was, but she came out, and she was looking like a soccer mom. I'm kidding not. Until somebody introduced me to her. She engaged me. She listened to me. She took the time out. She was there before even our mayor got there. And at that point, you got my vote.
All right, my friend.
Thank you, Anthony. Let's remember the Healy and Driscoll ticket, November 8th. Let's get our families out. Let's get our extended families out. Let's get our friends out to vote for the Healy Driscoll ticket. Thank you so much for.
Oh, this is awesome. Thank you so much.
Indeed.
Okay,
This is Salem's greatest holiday, Halloween. So we wish you luck getting back into the city of Salem. Folks, I'd like to, at this time, we have another very, very special guest, and I sincerely, President Steve Tolman from the AFL-CIO. Steve Tolman's passion is infectious. His leadership and his ability to, he has the utmost respect from leaders across the Commonwealth. Folks, if you can help me introduce or give a warm welcome to President Stephen Tolman of the AFL-CIO.
Well, good morning, sisters and brothers.
Good morning.
Good morning, sisters and brothers. Yeah, now I know everyone's awake. It's an honor to be with you today. You know, SEIU 888, maybe not the biggest, but it's clearly one of the best, and especially under his leadership. And I mean that. Tom serves as a vice president, like Brenda did before. And was it Mark who was before that?
Yes.
But let me tell you, we have 70 vice presidents on the AFL-CIO, so we have a real reflection of all the leaders of the unions. And then there's 11 central labor councils or area labor federations that the principal officer serves on a board. So we really have 81 and then 5 executive vice presidents. So it's a pretty big board to manage. But most importantly, and I've enlarged it because I think it's important to have the leaders of not the biggest locals, but the real leaders of our labor movement. And that's what Tom represents. And let me tell you, sisters and brothers, on our board, he's vocal. He's active. You bet your life. And he is a driver, and he's a driver. And I won't get into some of the small details, but there's some things going on that, in my opinion, SEIU 888 rocks. Because you're standing up when somebody tries to screw with you, you're not taking it, and that's extremely important. And there are people out there that call themselves labor leaders that want to do stupid things and divide us, and we can't let that happen. That's right. And I say that, I don't know if I need 2 mics for one, but you can hear me all right, right? So I got to tell you, one of my turning points in my entire life was in 1977. And I was a young guy like some of the young people in here. And I went down to Washington to a national meeting with my national president. And I got to tell you this because it really was important. And my national president at that time was a guy named Fred Crow. And in 1976, he challenged a retiring president who was trying to anoint his son as the next national president. And this guy was somewhat of a punk kid from Philly, he used to say. But he was a rock star. And let me tell you, he knocked off the retiring president's son and got elected, turned well. But shortly after he won that election, he was beat up so bad he was hospitalized. They knifed him. He took care of it. Get out of the hospital and said to the leaders, we can do this 2 ways. You all go, it's okay. You don't, we're going to court. They left. Freddie started to rebuild the union with young guys like me all around the nation. Turned BRAC, Brotherhood of Railway and Airline Clerks, into a pretty militant union and inspired a lot of us. And what he said is what caught my attention, sisters and brothers. And I tell you this because at that time, George Meany was leaving the AFL-CIO, who had led it like for 50 years. And the executive council, youngest guy ever elected to it, and he was the guy that they were going to put up as our next national president. So, but Fred said this, and it's just, it rings with me, and I just think of it every day, and I always want to share it. He said that the role of a union representative is not just in the workplace. It's in the schools, it's in the churches, it's in the central labor councils, and it's in the AFL-CIO. He said it's in the political parties. Generally the Democratic Party, he said sometimes the Republican Party, and there was a hiss across the crowd. There was about 220 people there. And he paused. And he said, you have to balance all that activity by being a good parent. Sisters and brothers, he owned me. He owned me from that day. I had goosebumps from my toes to my earlobes. I'm telling you, I love this guy. I would have followed him anywhere. And I mean that from all my heart. And he was 45 years old. On July 30th, 1981, he died of leukemia at 45 years old. We lost a giant. And I mean that from all my heart because he inspired and instilled values in us, not just by words, but by his leadership. In 1978, he told President Carter to go to hell in the Rock Island strike. They ordered him back, and he had the courage to tell the president to go to hell. And he did it, and he was right. And he was right. And that's the type of leadership, actually, we have in the White House right now. People want to criticize Joe Biden about the expensive gas and that stuff. Nobody could have predicted a war in Ukraine. And let me tell you something, this guy has bailed out the union's pensions that were going to go, and everybody would have been screwed of everything that they invested in for a lot of years. He dealt with it. I don't have to tell you because you pay attention. And there's people that want to divide us and think that the other side makes any sense. And I'm telling you, this time, it's so important for each and every one of us to have each other's back and to understand, especially where we are here in Massachusetts. I want to bring it back to Massachusetts because you heard Kim. I mean, what'd she say? Now, some of the unions maybe had a little problem. The teachers weren't crazy about Kim. But guess what? She's married to a brickie. And her brother-in-law is the national president of the brickies. I mean, she's going to do the right thing by organized labor. She is. And when you're the mayor, it's sometimes very difficult to be able to have a good relationship. It's easier as a senator or a rep, you could have a good relationship. But when you're holding the purse strings and then there's no money in them, you get into problems and things happen. But today, there's plenty of money. We have a governor that's been in there 8 years that has done nothing for us. And I like him. Is it a human being? Good Charlie Baker, nice guy, greatest, most popular in the country. But does he do anything for us? I don't know what he's done for us, I gotta tell you. He hasn't done much. He could have done a lot more, especially with what he had. And we have the opportunity to get our Attorney General as governor. I don't have to tell you because I know you're prepared, but you know what today is, right? Everybody know? Today's the first day we can vote in your communities. I'm going from here, I'm gonna vote in Jackson, Manor and Brighton. Now, I'll tell you, sisters and brothers, it is such an honor to talk to you as a group because you are the solidity of our movement. It's the little unions that represent people in all different types of trades. And I talked to Tariq coming in. I mean, and what's Tariq do? Mental health. Helps people. In our society today, that's probably the number one problem. People are struggling out there. And I've heard too many times, far too many times, oh, his insurance is out, or some other stupid excuse why you can't get the proper treatment for people. Sisters and brothers, our society is one where we have to help these people. There's a lot of people and families struggling. And I truly believe the administration that we're going to elect in just a few weeks, couple of weeks, and it's the 20th, it's the 8th though, so it's short of 3 weeks, right? What's today? Today's Saturday, so 2 more Saturdays and then the election day. They're going to do the right thing by us. They're not going to be web to us, or they're not going to be, to take a direction, but they understand the problems as each and every one of us understand the problems. And I believe, from the bottom of my heart, we are going to be able to address these concerns. And an example is, if you take a look at what Maura did on the opiates, with the crisis with the Purdue Pharma, they had a half-assed deal, and I say that not inappropriately, but they were letting the company off and, kind of going to move along. And she said, no. She stopped the first settlement and challenged them and pointed out some of the misdirection and the basically greed and inappropriate conduct that this company has demonstrated for the last 20 years. She fought harder. I believe we got a fighter in that, and I really hope. And you know what? I don't believe the polls. I don't care what the polls say. We're 20 points behind in my mind. We got to get out and vote. They want us to think it's a slam dunk. Don't. Let's beat them by 50 points if we have to. But we cannot become complacent. And on the ballot initiative, I think I don't have to raise a hand, but if I raised a hand, I know it'd go up. Is there anybody that makes over 20,000 here a week? I mean, the millionaire's tax, if you make over $20,000 a week after going to tax 4 cents on a dollar, that is not too much to ask. That is not too much to ask. And let me tell you the other one. Now, I'll tell you what, candidly, I worked in the railroad, I should tell you, 23 years. I got elected to the House in 1994, served 2 terms, and then ran for the Senate, served 7 terms in the Senate. I was in my 7th term when they asked me to run for this job. And I got to tell you this closing story. How much time do I have, Tom? Do I have time?
As long as you want,
Well,
Mr. President.
So essentially, I got to tell you this story. Now, you heard my profound love for my Freddie Crow, my national hearing, right? So when I was a senator, I would often take interns, walk them through the building. I'd show them the president's office, the governor's office, and I'd show them the speaker's office, and I'd show them some of the pictures on the wall. In particular, my favorite was Edmund Burke and Edward Everett. Edward Everett, you know Everett Square on the 93 there. No one knows what Edward Everett was. But he was the president of Harvard University. He was a United States Senator and things, but at that time, he was the most eloquent speaker, and he was the feature speaker at Gettysburg. And actually, he proceeded for 3 hours, Abraham Lincoln. And when Abraham Lincoln said the Gettysburg Address, he went over to him and said, Mr. President, you just said in 3 minutes what I tried to say in 3 hours. I mean, think of that, right? So these prominent people up at the State House. And then I would say to all of the staff that I would do this to, now listen, all these important people, Speaker, none of them are more important than you. You are as equal to any of these important people, and you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. And do not ever let them have you in an inappropriate position. Always stand your ground. I said that several times. And then I would say, most people in this building have a dream of being the President of the United States. And sisters and brothers, because of my affection for Freddie Crow, who would have been our national president of the AFL-CIO, I always used to say, and my dream job is to be the president of the AFL-CIO. And then when I got elected to this job, I was up there and I was speaking to the people who just elected me, and it dawned on me that God was listening, but I meant the national, not the state. So when you ask God for something, clarify it. True story, anyway. So I hope you got the message there that I used to say I'd dream of being the president of the AFL-CIO. I never really would say anything that I realized sometimes God's listening and we don't know it. So I left a prominent position in the Senate, and I've been here for 12 years. And sisters and brothers, I believe from the bottom of my heart, all that is wrong with America, all of this Trump stuff, all of that stuff, there is nobody, no organization that can stand up against injustice like the labor movement. We are the only force. We are the only force. There's nobody else. Now, everywhere around, I see people trying to divide us. They want us to personality BS to get mad at somebody. When in reality, on our first big election for Elizabeth Warren, when I got elected to this position, we were going down to the stage, and the gentleman from Washington, Damon Silvers, the kind of brain trust of the National AFL, he said to me, Stephen, you've got a state where if you keep everyone united, we can control the whole thing. And sisters and brothers, I believe with this new administration coming in, we are going to be in control. And organized labor is going to be listened to. And it's because of each and every one of you and your leadership. And so it's in that vein, I say to you, thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your leadership. And there is no more important job than the rank and file leaders who are in the workplace. And that's right, brother. That's right. So I say, CIO is committed to SEIU 888, and we're committed to building this labor movement so that when we go up that state house, we get results, not a lot of BS. And I'm telling you, what happened last year, outside of the driver's license, and that was the only real big thing we got last year, which is a good one. And now the haters on the other side want to repeal it. So I'm going to close with that. Do not be fooled. This issue, they want to make it about, first they'll say not documented, or they'll say some other stuff. These people who are struggling to get a driver's license, and there are tens of thousands of them, they have children that need to go to the doctors. They have problems just like each and every one of us, and not giving them the ability to pass a driver's license and be insured properly is a disgrace to each and every one of us. They should have that opportunity. So we need, and they're going to spend a lot of money. We need to tell our friends this and get out, and let's make sure that we give them the driver's license, because there's a lot of people who have had someone hit their car and leave.
Yes.
And you know why? Because they got to drive. If we're gonna think they're not driving, how do you not take your child? How do you not go get groceries? It's absolutely foolish. And they're union members, they're our neighbors, and they're our friends, and they're our cousins. So with that, don't take it for granted. Let's get out, and don't forget the ballots, because question 3, 4, it's 4, it's 4.
Yes.
Question 4 is yes on 1. I don't know the dentist one. I guess I'm going yes on that. I think I am. I think that's the right way to go. The third one is some about alcohol, which I really didn't pay a lot of attention to. But I'll tell you this. I did pay attention to the driver's license. And on that one, the legislators had the guts to do it. Because there's haters who want to try to throw it in their face. But they need us now to make sure we override their evilness.
Right.
Sisters and brothers, there's one more. Do I have a minute?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yes, yes.
How many of you saw those commercials with Uber and Lyft? Remember all the commercials? They were like inundated, right?
Yeah.
Commercials everywhere about, I love this, this is what I love. Well, it's right. I mean, truly, Uber's a great service, and we like the drivers. The problem is that the company came to Massachusetts after winning in California, spending $225 million on the same type of ballot initiative here. They won it out there. Why did they win it? They won it because it was the height of the pandemic. The hospitals were overflowing the summer of 2020. People didn't know which way to turn. It was set in Western Mass, they were a little western part of the nation, where they were a little bit behind us. And nobody was paying attention. And they had everything. You had food delivery. The bag said yes on 22. Everybody thought it was divided. They won 58 to 42. As soon as it passed, they went to the grocery store delivery, which was never anything anybody intended on. The delivery of grocery services were all eliminated. Pensions, jobs, gone. You put an independent contractor in there. They're delivering the groceries now with no benefits. Probably not getting proper mileage.
Right.
As you know what mile, I think they get 26 cents a mile. Everybody in the world gets 58 cents or 60 cents. It's the federal limit. So these companies came to Massachusetts and threatened $100 million. They hired every single lobbyist up there worth his weight in gold. If there's any here that didn't have it, well, maybe you were on our side. But I'm telling you, they hired them all. And they worked the legislature. They traction.
Yes.
But the ballot, I want you to know, an app-based transportation company, the drivers will be independent contractors, not employees, and not agents, not an agent. Now, everyone would know, okay, so you're not an employee. So as not an employee, you don't get any benefits. No civil rights. Nothing. No paid family medical leave. No Social Security, nothing. Now, that is a violation of our Massachusetts law, and the AG is suing them. But they're tying that up in court with bullshit. It's the truth. 3 years it's tied up in court. That's what employee, the exemption, would do. Who knows what agent is? We took it to court. We spent a lot of money. We hired the best constitutional lawyers. In Massachusetts, you have to have a single issue on a ballot initiative. And listen to this. How many times did you hear flexibility in benefits, right? It's a 15-page ballot initiative. Flexibility was not mentioned once. That's on the flexibility side. When they say not an agent, what that was doing is eliminating legal liability from the corporations. Think of that. Nobody knew that. They were saying black and brown drivers, this is an option for them. But not an agent would mean that the legal liability on a car crash was only on that car and the insurance they carried. That's what they were trying to do to the people of Massachusetts, spending $100 million, they threatened, and it's sparing no expense. We spent, because of leaders like Tom, who you guys gave with your money, $1.6 million we raised just through labor, just through my board and maybe some other nonprofits. And we're able to have the PR proper, and most importantly, but pay the lawyers a 30-page decision. Now, I was scared stiff. When we had the hearing, we all felt good because the arguments were good, but only 3 spoke. So that Catholic guilt set in. First, I was feeling confident, but after that, now I'm thinking, but it went well, but there were only 3 spoke and 4 didn't. And there are 7 appointees by Governor Baker. So I started getting real nervous. Well, guess what? The decision was 7-0. They land-basted the corporation. Land-basted them. Basically called them trying to defraud. And that's what's going on in America, not just in Uber Lyft, but in other places around. And that's why we need to stay together. It was your money and your leadership that stopped that bad initiative from happening in Massachusetts. Yeah. And that is our most proudest accomplishment. And it is one because of each and every one of you. I celebrate that with you, and I thank you for your leadership and your support. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Please help me again. President Steve Tallman is an absolute champion on behalf of labor in general. He's a mentor to many of our union leaders across the Commonwealth. But we celebrate Steve Tallman and thank you for being here today. Quick story. So 20 years ago, I worked up at the State House. I was a park ranger, and Steve was a senator up there. And I think it was my red face was a dead giveaway. Steve approached me and said, "Hey, I got something for you." And I was like, "What is it?" And he reached in, and it was an Irish CD. And I want to thank Steve. I still jammed to that Irish CD, and you're probably never getting that back. But folks, at this time, if you wouldn't mind, if we could completely recognize, we got some special folks here, folks from the SOAR program. You can stand up. Stand up. You recognize the city of Boston is completely screwing these folks. Anthony Meeks, Dennis, and other folks alike, they're trying to do away with their program. We're going to fight hard for you, and we're going to make you whole. So, thank you, Tom. Thank you for coming. So, at this time, if we can, we have another special guest, a senator up at the State House that was a chief sponsor of ours on behalf of the nuclear reactor engineer, pension reclassification. Tom Regan knows her well. Other folks, our staff knows her well. She's the hardest working senator on Beacon Hill. She turned her high heels into flats. She's everywhere. At this time, I'd like to, if you can help me give a warm reception to Diane DiZoglio, our next state auditor.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It is great to be here. It's always the morning time, right? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Tom, I changed those heels into New Balance sneakers, okay? This is the Lawrence Methuen factory, actually, right here, where I hail from in the Merrimack Valley. And it is great to be here with you this morning. Thank you so much for all that you do for folks in our communities. I'm going to be very brief this morning. I just came to say thank you. Thank you so much. We as statewide candidates, and just as candidates in general who are running for elected office, we cannot do anything that we do without you. I was a public employee at the State House, actually, I think during the same time working as a legislative aide. I had previously worked at the National Association of Government Employees. And before that, I was chief of staff to the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts, working with labor, working with our brothers and sisters in labor. And look, I was born to a 17-year-old single mother. I waitressed and cleaned houses to pay my way through our local community college and then earned scholarships to become the first in my family to graduate. I know, thank you. A lot of people's stories, right? That's a lot of people's stories. And we need to make sure that we're standing up and speaking truth to power on Beacon Hill on behalf of everyday working families who want nothing more than to be able to live with a standard of dignity in the communities that they're working hard to serve. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to have to be scrappy, and I know what's at stake up on Beacon Hill. Having served and worked in the legislature in an elected capacity now for 10 years, I can tell you that we are the least transparent state government in the entire nation. We need a lot of work when it comes to making sure that everyday workers have a seat at the table where the decisions are made. And right now, that's not happening the way that it could and the way that it should. That's why we just had President Tolman, who's a mentor of mine as well, get up here and talk about what's at stake. We need to talk about wage theft. We need to make sure that we're talking about, the right of State House employees to unionize. We need to make sure that we're talking about question 4. We need to make sure we're talking about question 1. We need to make sure that we're out there when we're advocating to, yes?
Can't hear you.
Is this better? Okay, good. That's because it was up. The microphones were up for President Trump, and I'm a little bit shorter. Just a little bit. Exactly, especially with the sneakers on. But we need to make sure that we're getting out, that we're helping to educate other folks about what's at stake. I know that I don't need to explain or express to anybody here. Y'all know what's at stake. But I am here to encourage us all to make sure that we're getting that message out there to other families in our communities to make sure that they understand what's at stake as well, that they understand that we need to pass the Fair Share Amendment to make sure that we have the resources needed for public education, for public transportation. We know the T is literally catching on fire right now. Okay? Now, as your next state auditor, I have committed to conducting a safety audit and making sure to bring much needed accountability and much needed oversight to our public transportation system. But we need to have a multi-pronged approach. It can't just be about accountability. That's one aspect of it. We need accountability, but we also need to make sure that we have the revenue necessary to be able to adequately and appropriately fund our transportation needs to be able to address these safety concerns. Our public education system. Look, I was proud to vote for the Student Opportunity Act, formerly known as the Promise Act, and we're really excited about the way that that's going to fund our public education here in the state of Massachusetts. I'm excited about the opportunity to bring the auditor's office to the next level when it comes to oversight and accountability regarding public education, but we need to generate the revenues necessary to be able to meet our commitments in this state, right? So we've committed to fund public education. We need to make sure that we're committed to bringing in those revenues to be able to meet those commitments now. So question 1 is really important. And like President Tolman was saying as well, question 4, friends, these are our neighbors. These are our brothers. These are our sisters. These are people in our communities who want nothing more than to be able to get to their appointments, to bring their kids to doctor's appointments, to make sure that they can go to work. And we need to make sure we're educating folks about the importance of that. So please, yes as well, vote yes on question 4. And then down the ballot, we need to elect Attorney General Healy to governor. We need to elect Mayor Kim Driscoll to Lieutenant Governor, Andrea Campbell to the Attorney General's office, Bill Galvin to Secretary of State, and I'm Diana DeZoglio. I humbly and respectfully ask for your continued support. Thank you for your endorsement for State Auditor. Please get out there, put up the signs, text your friends, let them know. We have a lot at stake this election cycle, and we have a great team, but we can't do anything we do without you. So thanks for your continued advocacy. Thanks for your work. We stand with you. Thanks for standing with us. Oh, that's great.
Let's get out the vote for Diane DeZoglio for State Auditor. She wrote out the ticket for you. And we're humbled to have her here with us today.
Nice job.
All right, folks, at this time, I'm so happy and honored to introduce a guy. He's a member of ours, and he came right out of Boots. He was a DPW worker. He developed a grassroots program unlike Lowell has ever seen. He ran such a successful program within his district. Again, he's a member of ours at Local 888. We're proud to have City Councilor Corey Robinson with us today. Corey. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Everybody, Corey Robinson.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'll tell you right now, we have some work to do. We have opportunities before us coming up in November. And I'll tell you, I'm living proof. We need to, all these issues that we've been hearing before us so far, they need to be addressed. We're all in agreement. We have the opportunity to stop putting the people just like us in these decision-making positions to ensure when push comes to shove, our values are remembered, our values are considered, and our livelihoods have a voice at the table because we've been ignored for quite some time. A brief backstory. I was a labor leader for 8 years. I come from Lowell, Massachusetts.
Oh, me too.
I'm currently employed in Tingsboro right now. Still put work boots on daily. My thing is, we have an opportunity unfolding across the state. Some communities are going to district representation. That opened the door for someone such as myself. Someone that never caved and played the political games because it will take care of you but ignore the 120,000 in your community. As a result of that changing and opening up the door for candidates such as myself to run, I accredit the skill set that I developed as a labor leader that guides my decision-making powers on a daily basis now. I think organized labor and getting involved with your colleagues, your fellow employees, your workers, that prepares you for the next stage. That prepares you for communicating, for listening and actually hearing the needs and the things that matter most to those that you're trying to represent. And as a result, I reached out to SEIU during my campaign. Not only were they supportive with a pat on the back, Tom and many others came down to Lowell and held signs with me. The contributions, the social media shares. And what that did is that catapulted my campaign towards a victory in a district where I was up against the old machine, the establishment.
Go ahead, Corey.
By earning this seat, now I can advocate for fellow brothers and sisters that are with organized labor. When I'm crafting policy or I'm making decisions on salaries and wages and conditions of employment, my heart comes labor first because I understand and I do it for a living. And so we have Diane DeZoglio, we have Kim Driscoll. These opportunities are presenting themselves, and it's how do we respond? If we each go out and tell 10 people in our community to tell 10 people, before you know it, those numbers grow. And we'll all be able to sit back and look and say, you know what? We have people that actually get it. We have people that are actually gonna fight for what we need them to fight for, as opposed to getting lip service and off they go.
Right.
People don't realize, by getting involved with your union, organized labor, it's valuable. I don't care what you learn in the classroom. This is real life, hands-on education that can't be, find a better path. Because when push comes to shove and the pressure and the stress that we're used to dealing with, just with our employees, just to get a basic wage, just to try to get health insurance for the person that might not make the full 35 hours, in fighting to add those extra hours to allow them to receive some of these benefits. The same kind of stress that we get when we're trying to sit in with a department head or a boss explaining why our coworker is juggling a family of 3 or multiple children as a single parent, and that's why they're showing up late. It's not abuse of the system. These are the kind of things that you develop a natural skill set. And when you take that skill set and apply it to the next level, city council, the next level, state reps, and keep going up the charts, you have a valuable skill set that cannot be taught in a classroom, and I'll double down on that any day. More important, as a colleague or co-worker, maybe advocating for the group isn't your thing, but you're still a piece of this puzzle, and there's no way any of this happens without us all contributing our part. The only way we're gonna get better and improve quality of life for every one of us and keep continuing to raise the bar here is if every one of us do what we can do to help the people like the DeZoglios, to help the people like the Kim Driscolls, to help the people like myself. Because none of this is possible unless we work as a unit. I mean, there's plenty out there that would love to see us do nothing but fall apart and disbanding. But I'll tell you one thing right now, look across the state and the changes that are being made with district representation, giving people an opportunity to bring a voice to the table to advocate for those that have been forgotten and left behind. It's here. Wake up, get involved, engage, and help the person next to you if you're not. So please, I advocate strongly. Whatever you can do to help organized labor and these candidates that support organized labor, and not just the people that show up once an election cycle with a handout saying, hey, I need your support. Pay attention. You see who's really there for who when push comes to shove. Those are the people we need to really keep supporting, and we have a couple great ones on the ticket coming up. So all I can say is please go back to your community and help these people get on where they need to go, because they're gonna help us in the long run. And together, we just need to keep working to make this difference. Thank you very much.
Corey's an absolute rock star. He's the future of labor. We will support all of your political endeavors going forward. Thank you, Corey, for coming today. I'm sorry, we have
Confirm.
indeed.
So I'm gonna.
Jocelyn Cody, everyone.
That I've seen Corey from the bottom, working hard, like he said. I supported him all the way. I'm from Mobile.
Yeah, Mobile.
I've been trying to get like AFRAM and the union to support the other communities. You know, I just want to add that it's very important also to donate. We don't have much money, but you have to donate to candidates, and even you might do a few dollars this month, a few the next month, but you always want to push the people that represent you and everybody else forward.
Well said, Jocelyn, and thank you. And Corey's an absolute champion, and he led a grassroots campaign in the district of Lowell, unlike Lowell has ever seen. And Corey is a rising star and a bright figure in the political movement. And I thank you, Corey. Yeah. All right, folks, at this time, before it's my honor and to introduce a friend, an absolute friend. In the spirit of enhancing membership benefits, this was the largest benefit instilled in contracts in the city of Boston, and it's related to a prepaid legal plan. It offers a wide array of legal representation. You name it, you got it. In terms of property, real estate, wills. This friend of mine, Attorney Paul Regan, will address you momentarily. He offers the best services that money can buy, and it's on the donut, and he'll certainly explain it to you. It's employer paid, and it's incumbent upon Local 888 to instill this in other contracts Commonwealth-wide. But at this time, if you can help me recognize Attorney Paul Regan from Regan Associates.
Thank you, John. Everybody should have this brochure on their desk, which has materials, and I'm available after the break to talk to anybody. Regan Associates is a group legal services plan which is designed to help members with their personal legal problems, off-the-job legal problems. For some background, a few years ago, Local 888 negotiated a legal plan with the City of Boston employees for about 1,000 families. That plan is still in place. We were selected to provide the legal services and to be the administrator for the plan. We were selected because this is our specialty. We've been doing this for 35 years, representing only union families' prepaid legal plans. We are very, very proud that Local 888 members are now part of our family of clients. Excuse me. Listen, the rich have always had lawyers to protect their interests. We know that. Corporations have armies of lawyers to protect their interests. The public sector, your employers, they're with the legal department. Even the poor, in some circumstances in America, have access to free lawyers. It's only the middle class that do not have equal access to justice, because legal fees can be backbreaking for the average American family. So legal plans were designed originally by unions to make lawyers affordable to middle-class families. So a good legal plan should have a broad base of coverage without any hidden fees, without any small print shrinking the benefit levels that you see in the large print. It shouldn't have any co-payments. It shouldn't have any deductibles. It should be member-friendly, which is why we have a hotline which operates 365 days a year. So God forbid something happens to somebody in the family, you need a lawyer immediately, you'll have a lawyer on the phone within an hour or less. And if it's a homicide or something, we'll have lawyers at the precinct that night, and we'll be there in the morning to represent you. And it should be affordably priced. It's got to be affordably priced, and so Local 888's legal plan checks all the right boxes. So let's see what you get for the money. So this looks like a pretty sober crowd, so I'll skip through the drunk driving stuff and go right to the criminal. But so we do, of course, all the moving violations, including drunk driving, at no cost to the membership. In the criminal area, we cover misdemeanors and felonies, district court, superior court, juvenile court, and is covered up to and including first-degree murders. Now, I should tell you that the law, I never hire lawyers, 95% of the lawyers that I hire originally are former prosecutors or public defenders. They have to work there a minimum of 5 years before we'll take them on. So we're pretty experienced in the criminal law area.
Good job.
Consumer and bankruptcy matters. We see a lot of bankruptcies where somebody in the family has cancer. One of the parents get cancer. And pretty soon their insurance runs out or won't pay anymore. And the they're in a lot of trouble. And and a cancer victim has lost his or her job. So they become pretty overwhelmed, and it's never going to be possible for them to pay off those hospital bills. And so bankruptcies are an excellent way to get people back on their feet and give them a new start. So bankruptcies have been covered by the plan from the beginning. In consumer matters, we see home repair contractor ripoffs, car dealership ripoffs. These cases are common enough. We see consumer credit disputes. We'll negotiate back the credit. And in fact, if they sue you, we'll defend the lawsuit, and they generally can't prove that they own the debt.
Right.
Which is a technical issue legally, but they almost never can prove it, so we never really lose the credit card cases. Real estate and landlord-tenant matters. We all know inflation's going up, and we all know that there's going to be a lot more evictions, and so our plan has always covered evictions for working families. We also have always seen a lot of landlords withhold the security deposit after you move out. So what they'll say is you've wrecked the place. What they're talking about is you've hung some mirrors and you've hung some pictures on the wall, and they're claiming that they've had to have a crew come in and put everything back together again. This is a lie generally, but most people don't have $1,000 or $2,000, which is what the security deposit is. They need that much money just to hire a lawyer to get that money back. So they get cheated, but they won't get cheated if they've got our legal plan. We will definitely get your security deposit back. Real estate matters are we cover the full range of real estate. If you're buying or selling a house, we'll negotiate the purchase sale agreement with you. We'll attend the closing with you. If your home is being foreclosed upon, that's also covered by the plan at no cost. Wills and probate of estates. If you're eligible to be the administrator for your family's estate, we'll guide you through that process. Wills, everybody, you can get a will in Greater Boston, throughout really Massachusetts. You can get a will for about $500 from any decent law firm. But when you go to get the will, which is not nothing, but it's affordable for most people. What you don't get, when you get in there though, they're gonna tell you that you're gonna need a healthcare proxy, you're gonna need a living will, you're gonna need a durable power of attorney. They're unbundling the service. And so by the time you leave, it's a $2,000 bill. We provide all of that, of course, at no cost to the members of the families.
Woo! Yeah.
Immigration and administrative matters. So if it's not in a formal court, and if it's just in an agency like the registry of motor vehicles is after your license, we're in there for those types of cases. In the immigration matters, we have represented the Hotel and Restaurant Workers Union, 10,000 members, for 35 years, and they have a lot of immigrants in that group. So we've helped a lot of people get through, negotiate their way through the immigration process, and to the extent to which you have immigrant members that need this help, we'll provide it. We also provide this service in Spanish and Portuguese. Domestic and family matters. So 25% of all the cases that come into our office from every union we represent is in this subject area, minimum 25%. Half of all marriages result in a divorce. And divorces can be extraordinarily expensive. I know someone covered by your plan in the City of Boston group had paid over $50,000 to get divorced. And I know a lot of people outside the SEIU group who have not had legal plans, who have paid a lot more than $50,000 to get a divorce. You come to us, it won't cost you anything. Now, most legal plans will cover an uncontested divorce. Few legal plans will cover a contested divorce. If you just got married for a few years and you don't have any children, you didn't buy a house, it's kind of like breaking up. I mean, I'll keep the TV and the couch and you can have everything else, honey, and you're out of there. Kiss on the cheek, it's over. It'll cost you $1,000 probably to get an uncontested divorce, but it's not going to be backbreaking. A lot of people can save for that. But if you've been married for any length of time and/or have children and/or own any real estate and/or have a pension, you're looking at a lot of money for a lawyer. Aside from the financial consequences of the divorce, the lawyers will take your house. So we provide the full panoply of services in the divorce area. We also, no legal plans cover this area. Once you've been divorced, it's not over if you've ever had kids, because there's going to be continual scab picking. It's all going to have to do with, and many of them are legitimate fights. It's child support. It has to go 4-year-old kid, and the kid's now 16. We all know that kid costs a lot more money. So the custodial parent, usually the wife, will want an increase in child support. If he loses his job, and he doesn't have the kids, but he loses his job, he can't pay the child support. So we'll file motions to modify that child support. And there's also visitation disputes commonly where she won't let him see the kids for some reason. It could be a legitimate reason. Well, it could be a reason that he hasn't paid his child support, for example. It could be he's got a girlfriend. There's so many reasons why people get in these disputes. And it's very expensive. If you can't see your kid on a weekend, you need $1,000 to get somewhere to go tell the judge, I didn't see the kid last weekend, and it's her fault. I have every right to see my kids. And so then they schedule it against another $1,000 to come and have the hearing. And so that's a lot of money. And we do these cases at no cost to any of the participants. So how do you get your members in a legal plan? These plans are typically collectively bargained. The employer pays their premium, and the premium is locked in for the length of the CBA. The alternative ways to get a legal plan are, if you are in a health and welfare fund, the trustees in a health and welfare fund can vote to make the legal plan an ancillary benefit. They can pay the premium. And if your chapter has a checkbook with a lot of reserves in there, you could pay it out of that. So if you think that any of your members might be interested in a legal plan, I'd like to be contacted. I don't know if this is going along with whatever I'm talking about, but
It has been.
great. So please, you can call me. Everybody has my phone numbers in the brochures, or you can call the local. There you go. That's my cell phone number, guys. I want your business, you should call me or the local, and they'll put us together 6 months to a year before the end of the collective bargaining agreement. I would like, or my staff could meet with your bargaining committee, explain the program to the bargaining committee, and if the bargaining committee wants to go forward, I should be brought in, or my staff should be brought in to present the issues to management, because management, their first issue is going to be, can you use the plan to sue them? And you can't, because they're paying the benefits, premiums. They have other technical questions, and I don't expect the bargaining committee to be up to speed on all that, so I should be brought in at those sessions to explain to management. I'm happy to do it. I think that concludes my presentation. I really want to thank you all for the opportunity to present that plan. I'll be available at the lunch break if anybody wants to talk to me about any questions they might have personally.
Yeah, Councilor Paul.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. This is an absolute benefit, the biggest benefit that we have in the city of Boston, under Regan and Associates. Paul has been so gracious as to attend a lot of our negotiations with Mass State Lottery, and we're continuing to forge ahead with providing those services to our members at the lottery. And it's incumbent upon, like I mentioned before, it's incumbent upon the local 888 to work with our business reps and to get this written into our contracts, because it is such a fantastic benefit. So, folks, at this time, in the spirit of enhancing membership benefit here at the local, we've reached out to many, and we've instituted the help from Ketch's Law Firm. And Ketch's Law Firm is a fantastic organization. They provide workman's comp representation for, and we've used them on many different occasions with our members at Boston Public Schools. And essentially, when the city of Boston sees Ketch's Law Firm come walking in the room, they're always like, "Oh shit," But Ketch's their reputation precedes themselves. And at this time, Attorney Kayleen Crum will give you. She'll lay out the parameters of workman's compensation, and we're so happy to have forged a partnership with Ketch's Law Firm.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you to Tom and Neil for putting us in touch with your wonderful group. So workers' compensation, we are the largest workers' compensation firm in the state of Massachusetts. We represent the injured workers, and we love it. We're passionate about it. The most important thing that you can do when you are injured is report it. Do not be afraid of reporting it. Report it to your doctors, report it to your employers, because something that may seem minor may end up being a bigger issue down the road. Also, call us. Tom and Neil have put us in touch with so many of your members for a 5-minute phone conversation, and we are happy to do it. It is no cost to you at all. If we go to court and we get you workers' comp benefits while you're out of work, the insurance company pays us our fee. You do not pay us a dime, so please do not hesitate to call us. Neil is putting some of our cards around the table. Certainly, you can find us online, but we do want you to be aware that this is a right, this is a benefit. Massachusetts the statute is designed for the injured worker, for the injured worker's best interest. So don't be afraid of termination, of not being, of being bullied. We're there for you. And like Tom said, we are well respected by the judges. We are well respected by the defense attorneys, and we want to help you all out when you need us. If you have any questions, I'm going to stick around for a while. I'm happy to answer those for you. But if you want to get in touch with us at all, again, Tom and Neil certainly do not hesitate with putting us in touch with your members, okay? Thank you.
So, folks, yes, that's. I don't believe past administrations such as this and forging relationships with law firms outside of our in-house attorneys and our outside attorneys. So we're very, very happy, to have Ketch's Law Firm in the 888 or local 888 family. And I appreciate Attorney Crum coming to address our members today. At this time, I think, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we can adjourn for lunch. And thus, I'd like to thank all the political candidates, and I'd like to thank President Steve Turner from the AFL carving out time to come and meet with our membership today, both on Zoom, Twitter, Facebook Live, and in person. I appreciate it. So why don't we adjourn for lunch, and then we'll reconvene momentarily. Thank you. Okay, folks, we're going to resume. Let's call this meeting back to order. We had some audio difficulty in the beginning of the program, but we certainly ironed that out. I want to thank Tony Landry and Eric Plowden and Johannes Rotz from our political and comms department and setting all these audio pieces up. They certainly saved the local a lot of money, and I appreciate your efforts. If we can direct our attention to the screen here. I'd like to present a video from a very special person, U.S. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh. Oh.
I want to thank my friend, President Trump, and all my friends in local 888 for inviting me. Hi, everyone. This is Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh. I want to thank my friend, President Tom McKeever, and all my friends in Local 888 for inviting me to share a few words. And thank you to all the delegates and members that are here today. This is a union of incredible, dedicated public service workers. During this historic recovery, you have been there to make sure workers know their worth and earned what they deserve. As a second-generation union laborer, I know the difference of a union makes of the impact it had on my family's life. Your leadership has never mattered more, and there has never been a better time to move forward, grow, and organize. Right now, workers are demanding more from the economy. Support for unions is at its highest point since 1965, and you have the most pro-worker, pro-labor administration in our nation's history. We are protecting all workers, fighting misclassification, wage theft, retaliation, and discrimination. We believe every worker, no matter who they are or what they do, deserve a voice in their workplace and in their government. We are making historic progress under the American Rescue Plan, the Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the Inflation Reduction Act. We have the opportunity to create more good jobs and increase worker powers for years to come. We are working across the federal government and across industries to create those good jobs that have equitable wages, better working conditions, and affordable health care. The fact is, our economy thrives when workers thrive, and that's what your work ensures. So keep organizing, keep fighting for your members. Thank you to everyone for being active in your union and for the work that you do every single day.
That was fantastic. We were very humbled to have the opportunity to. We did extend a personal invite to Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh, but he is due to circumstances we completely understand. He is actually with the President of the United States and helping out with midterms. Marty, everybody in this room has a relationship with Marty, and he is fighting tirelessly on behalf of working folks. He's working closely with the Vice President Kamala Harris and preserving our pensions. Marty's also been very instrumental in settling a potential strike with Amtrak that would have had national implications, and we can't say enough about what a champion Marty has been. So I'm thrilled and honored to be able to post this video and have the support from the U.S. Labor Secretary, Marty Walsh. Thank you. So again, thank you for reconvening, and you know, this convention ultimately, what we are really trying to strive is to make it completely informational, and we love all of the political speakers we've had today, as well as the other folks that we are building partnerships with to build out members. With that being said, at this time, I'd like to introduce Frank Zika. And Frank Zika is essentially, he is a absolute specialist when it comes to retirement on behalf of the Commonwealth, the city, and for Social Security. So can we give Frank Zika a warm welcome from Local 888?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
I work for the town of Brookline. I grew up in the city of Chelsea. I have service in public retirement, working for a city, town, or a state agency. So first and foremost, I appreciate all the work that you do that goes unnoticed. We know what you do, and we appreciate it. So thank you. My job as a retirement director is to explain the benefits that you or your family members may be entitled to depending on your years of service. I've been asked to talk mainly about Social Security, but I'm going to briefly just talk about public pension employment. It always makes sense to keep your money in the system and to get to 10 years of creditable service. There are 3 bad people in retirement. I heard someone said, and I thought, please do not pay any attention to those people. Speak to the people at your local retirement office. Don't, what Uncle Joe told you, or Auntie Mary, when they worked, the rules were different. They changed in '88 and they changed in 2012. If you started employment after April 2nd, 2012, your public employee retirement pension is based on your 5-year average, not your 3-year average. And if you took your money out of the system, you buy back time, not rights. So if you took money out from 90 to 92 and buy it back now, you still have a 5-year salary average for your retirement. But most importantly is group health coverage. If you are vested and retire from a Massachusetts public pension system, you will get group coverage. It varies from city and town and state agency, but it's a wonderful benefit. Now we go over to Social Security. Social Security is what I call the Rodney Dangerfield of benefits. It gets no respect. I mean, it really, because most people I hear, it's not worth it to get my 40 quarters of credits in, because I'm not going to get anything anyway. That is completely false. If you get your 40 quarters or credits into Social Security, you will get something. And I'm going to explain in a few minutes. You'll hear these acronyms: WEP or WEP, Windfall Elimination Provision, or GPO, Government Pension Offset. But before I get there, what's it take to get a quarter of coverage? In 2022, if you make $1,510 in a non-government position and you claim it on your tax return, you would get 1 quarter of coverage. If you made $6,040 in your non-government position, you would get 4 in a calendar year. That's the most you can get. Now, if you, years ago, January to March, you had to make $1,500, April to June, $1,500. If you worked 2 weeks doing something and you made $6,000, you would get 4 quarters of coverage. In order to be vested or get a benefit, you need 40 quarters of coverage. And it starts, I always ask people, when did you graduate high school? You might have a summer job or in college or wherever, part-time jobs before you begin your government employment. Or with government employment, a lot of us have to work a second job that might be non-government, and that will get you quarters of coverage. So one of the most important things you could do is go to the Social Security website, ssa.gov. And right in the middle of the page, there's a hand that's like that. You click on that, and it'll say sign in or create an account. It's easier for the males because they don't have, if you get married and you change names, sometimes hyphenated names, the mix and the max, it's a little bit difficult, but most should be able to sign in. And it's a great website. They tell you not to write your username and password down, but I think we all do in some ways. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, never learned a password. But it'll tell you how many quarters or credits of coverage you have and what your benefit will be. Social Security is based, how they base your benefit is on your highest 35 years of wages that you paid into Social Security. Most, if you're a government employee, will never get to 35 years, but after 10, you're vested. So if you're up at bat 35 times or 30 times and you get 10 hits, you're batting 333 in baseball. I'm a baseball fan. So, if you have 40 quarters of coverage, that means you get 10 years of service, so 10 over the 35. You will get something from Social Security. Does it make sense to get to 40 quarters? Yes. Every day, all day, try to get to your 40 quarters of coverage. If we can go to the WEP, windfall elimination provision. Can we go to the second page? Oh, back up. Okay. These are what we call substantial earnings. So if you graduated in 1980, if you made $5,100 in a non-government position, that's considered a substantial year of earnings. Today, you can see it's $27,300. It's harder to get a year of substantial earnings. But let's just say you came into government early in life, became vested and left and went into and paid Social Security, or you have a second job and you've worked in Social Security a long time. If you can beat that chart, when you go to ssa.gov and log in and you look at your earnings, how many times can you beat that chart? So 1980, if you made $5,101, that's 1 year of substantial earnings. If you beat this chart 30 times, it's not that easy to do, but if you do, you will lose nothing of your Social Security benefit. You will get what they tell you. Now, this little chart on the right is very confusing. If what will you get? If you can go to, does anyone have any questions on this particular chart, years of substantial earnings?
No question for the confusion chart.
Okay. Can you go to the GPO WEP off sheet? I think it's the next slide. So I broke this chart down, and this is all you'll have to know regarding the GPO and WEP, but we'll stay to the right of the page. You, the government employee, are collecting Social Security benefits off of your own work history. In 2022, retirement age, let me just talk about full retirement age. Anyone born 1960 or later, your FRA, your full retirement age is 67. If you were born in 1954, it's 66. If you were born in 1955, it's 66 years and 2 months, 56, 66 and 4 months, up till you get to 1960, full retirement age is 67. So we go over to this chart, at your full retirement age, the most you can lose is half of your Social Security benefit, but no more than $512. So if you go on, they don't really mail those sheets out. They mail them like every 10 years, or if you get a milestone birthday at 60. Social Security used to mail them out every year, but they save millions of dollars in postage, and with the website that they have, it's very helpful and has your whole work history. So the most you can lose, if it says you're going to get $800 a month from Social Security, I know right away you have less than 20 years of substantial earnings, you're going to lose $512 of your benefits. So if your benefit says $800, expect to get only $400 from Social Security. If you beat the chart 21 years, 22 years, 23 years, the offset is lowered to hit 30 years. You won't lose anything from Social Security. Does that make sense? I do this every day, and sometimes I talk a little fast. I want to make sure people understand it. And I'll be around for a few minutes if anyone has an individual question. So the WEP is easy. You get 40 quarters in, you will get something from Social Security. If you work 30 years and have 30 years substantial earnings, you won't lose anything, or something in between. The most anyone can collect from Social Security, if you were hitting your full retirement this year, is about $3,200. Full retirement age at 67, $3,200.
And that's capped.
And it goes up each year. 10 years ago, it was approximately 2,700, so it does trickle up a little bit. But people go into Social Security, you can go in at 62 and collect the benefit. And I have people that get temporary amnesia when they go into Social Security. They say, "You working?" No. Okay. They'll pay you a benefit. But then 3 years later, they figure out that, well, you might not call it work, but you were working, making money for each, so you'll be offset and almost wipe out. So if you are working in a government position, you can, but you're gonna lose it all. You should not collect Social Security. Now, let's say you retired at age 60 from your government position, you say, "I'm going into 62 to collect my benefit." The figures that Social Security will show you at full retirement age is X amount of dollars. Each year prior to that, you will lose 8%. So you go in at 62, you're gonna lose 40% of your benefit. I don't know everyone's financial position, health position, but it's not recommended to go in much before 67, but every case is different. If you defer after 67, you get 8% more. So you say, "I'm gonna wait till I'm 70, because I'm gonna get an extra 24%, but you'll have passed up 3 years of cash benefits. I don't tell jokes anymore, but this is the only one I have today. Tell me when you were gonna die, and I'll think Social Security. My father's 90, lives by himself, he's doing okay, but I always joke around and say, "What's an extra $300 or $400 going to do?" In my mind, not a whole lot. So at 67, you still have, and I equate everything to baseball, you still have your fastball. You're not in the high 90s, but you're throwing 90 miles an hour. That, whatever amount of money you could get might help you and your family now, and you're still motoring along. At 72, 73, you're throwing sliders, knuckleballs, underhand, and then at 90, you really can't throw at all. So when to claim Social Security, there's books and this and that, but it's simple. The best financial planners in the world are you and or your spouse looking in the mirror, knowing what you should do. It's not a dream. It's pretty factual what you'll get from your government pension. It's factual what you will get from Social Security. The stock market, please don't, you got to be careful relying on that. I just had a retiree retired in August, sold his house, went to Florida, paid cash for his house, was in a flood zone, no insurance, retired 48 days, no house. Very sad, very sad. Your government pension is very valuable, Social Security is very valuable. It's guaranteed. And the other benefit of getting your 40 quarters or credits in is Medicare. Medicare, after you stop working and reach age 65, the cities and towns will require you to sign up for Medicare A and B and get a supplement through the town. That allows you to go to any doctor, any hospital in the United States. If you don't have, and most people do qualify for Medicare, if you don't have 40 quarters of credits into Social Security and you're married for 10 years or more, you won't get cash from your wife, but you'll get love, affection, and Medicare benefits. So if you, and I don't joke around about divorces, but if you get 9 years in, 9.5 or 9 years and 9 months, to qualify for Medicare off an ex-spouse, you gotta be married 10 years. Hang in there 2 more months. But in all seriousness, Medicare is a very valuable tool in your financial picture. Medicare A being a supplement plan is wonderful. And the leaders have fought hard for benefits in cities and towns and negotiating through PECs and so forth. So every city and town, has good, if not great coverage. I know the state, the Unicare and even the Blue Cross and all these other products, Tufts, they're great. Their supplement plans are great. Medicare picks up 80%. If we can go back to GPO, government pension offset. Not this slide, but the worksheet. Keep going back. Back one more. Nope, this is the web. There you go. So there's a little formula here in the second paragraph. If you, the government employee, are trying to collect Social Security benefits off of your spouse or ex-spouse, you can. If you ever wonder why, and I hate to use the word old, but people over 67, or their full retirement age, are still working. These rules are backwards. I don't make them up, and you're gonna scratch your head. So you're working, making $30, $40, $50, $60,000 a year, you're 68 years old. You can collect cash off your ex-spouse. You can collect half of their Social Security benefit if they're alive and claiming. Or, unfortunately, if they're deceased, you could collect their benefit while you're working. But when you retire, you may not. And how the formula goes, they use an old formula. But let's say your government pension is $2,100 a month. You divide that by 3, my Chelsea math says 700 times 2, 1,400. Government pension office, take your government pension divided by 3 times 2. At $2,100, it's $1,400. Let's say your spouse is collecting $2,000 a month. You're eligible to collect $1,000. 1,000 minus 1,400 is less than 0, so you're not going to collect anything off your spouse when you're retired. But while you're working, you can collect half of the benefit. So you're working, making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. You can collect half the benefit. When you retire and your income drops, you can't collect. So if you ever wonder why Mr. or Mrs. Jones is because they can and collect Social Security benefits off of their spouse or ex-spouse. Now, I've had people that have 2 or 3 ex-spouses, but I'm not going to go into that. But all 3 would collect benefits if they were married for 10 years or more at half. So it's kind of weird rules. So if we can go to that slide we were looking at the end that had the GPO and WEP on each side. So let's start from the top on the government pension offset. This is the only sheet that you really need. You, the government employee, are collecting Social Security benefits off your spouse's records. In working in your government position past your full retirement age, the GPO is not in effect. You're 70 years old, working hard for the government, which a lot of people do, you can collect, Social Security off your spouse. When retired, and I was doing this for police and fire, and I apologize for the pension being a little bit higher than most of what your pensions would be. If your Massachusetts pension or retirement allowance is more than $4,800 per month, you cannot collect Social Security cash benefits off of your spouse's earning. Because if you took 4,800 divided by 3 times 2 is 3,200. Even if your spouse was a high wage earner, your pension would offset the earnings. You wouldn't be able to collect off a spouse. And the last bullet item, you'll be eligible for Medicare Part B off your spouse if you're married for 10 years or more. So this is the Reader's Digest version of the GPO and WEP. But I get a question all the time. What's better, working in government or Social Security? I would say that your public pension, if you put 32 years in and collect 80% of your pay, and you make more than $40,000 or $45,000 a year, it'll be more than Social Security. I have people that have 10 or 15 years. Now, I want you to pay attention to this because this happens a lot. People have 15 years working in a municipality. Don't like my job, I'm out of here, I'm gonna go, I got a great job in the private sector. It's great. How much you leaving for? So he's making 40, she's making 45,000, they're leaving for 50,000. They're leaving for less money because, if you think about it, the health insurance benefit when you retire or the pension benefit. There's two benefits that people, your pension benefit and your health insurance benefit, because the town contributes at least 50% or more to your health insurance. You got to factor all that in if you were to switch jobs. But the cardinal mistake, the number one mistake, is people take their money out if they're vested. I need this money, I'm gonna buy a house, a car, I'm moving, I'm gonna rediscover myself in Florida. So they take their money out of the system. Now you go work in Social Security for 25 years. You don't get to the 30 years of substantial earnings. Social Security is gonna say, hey, you worked in government for 10 years or more. You're gonna be subject to the windfall elimination provision. Even if you don't have your money in the system, you were vested, they look at it for 10 years, they will offset you. So there's a lot of ramifications. If you know of anyone taking their money out of a public pension system that's vested, believe me, I have them come to my board meeting and, say, you're gonna get 50,000 if you take a refund, but if you take a retirement 15 years from now and live your actuarial equivalent, you're gonna collect $700,000, $800,000, $900,000. Do you want 50 now or 800,000? They want the 50 now, and it's very sad. So your pension benefit and Social Security benefit are worth a lot more than you think it is. I could go on and on regarding this. I appreciate your time. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them. Yes, sir.
Being a student of English, I would like to know what their concept of a windfall elimination is for government pensions.
That's a great question.
Windfall?
Yeah, I don't make up the acronyms. Social Security makes up these acronyms. Years ago, when this law became effective during the Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, the House Speaker, they negotiated. They were very smart where they raised the Social Security age up because they knew people were living longer, wanted to last, and they developed these rules. So it's windfall. I get that all the time. It's no windfall, but it's an interesting concept on the word windfall elimination provision.
Yeah.
People say, I work for Social Security, I should get what I deserve. I believe that. Associations trying to do away with the windfall elimination provision in the GPO, and they've been trying for almost 40 years. It's not going to happen. They might get it adjusted, but it's never going to be eliminated.
It's like the Mass State Lottery. When you play, you win. Windfall.
Windfall, when you play, you win. I don't mind putting the name of the winners of the lottery, just like they have the name of all the losers as well.
My hand is up.
Your hand is up. He has her hand up. We've got another question.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, sorry.
So, I work for the city of Boston. And I want to retire. But I don't want to retire.
You want to stop working?
Right. Help.
Well, there's two things. Stop working doesn't mean you're retired. So if you stop working, the first question is, and I'm not guessing your age, so, but let's pretend you're 55 or older, okay? If you are vested, you can start collecting a cash benefit. If you stop working and don't collect, you don't get health insurance. Now, and you go work private, you can do that. So if you're 55 and have 20 years in, and you started working, this is where I don't want to go, but if you started working prior to 2012, the age factor at 55 is 1.5 with 20 years, and you could collect 30% of your 3-year average at 55. If you were 65 and had 20 years, then you could collect 50%. But I don't know quite where you're going after that. If you stop working, I don't know how many years you have in and so forth, but if you want to follow up on that.
I got 25.
So 25, and if you were 65, it's 67.5% of your high 3-year average salary.
So my part.
So, all right, so that has no effect on Social Security. Those are not substantial earnings, just substantial what you paid under Social Security, not what you work for the city of Boston.
So with my part two to that is it true that you can, I heard you say about your spouses and still be working. What about you in Social Security?
So on the right-hand side, you, Mrs. Jones, Ms. Jones, are the government employee, and you're collecting Social Security benefits off your own work history. If you are over working and over full retirement age, no offset. If you decide to go collect Social Security benefits, depending what they tell you you'll get, and then they'll apply the offset underneath.
While I'm still working?
No, not while you're working. No offset while you're working, after FRA. No offset while you're working. The offset, working in government, working for the city of Boston, and then collecting Social Security. Once you stop working, that's what triggers the windfall elimination provision.
Thank you.
Questions? Yes, sir.
So why is the pension cost of living increase, I guess would be called, why is that the $13,000 basis that they use?
So every city and town has a cost of living adjustment, and it's on the base. And I think the base was set up, I'm pretty sure it was set up, I know it was set up, to kind of be equitable. There are people that make $100,000 a year pension. So if you gave a 3% on 100,000, or the person that's getting a $15,000 pension, 3%, the pensions start going like that. So the cost of living adjustments, they kind of said, it used to be, I remember when the base was 6, I remember when it was 9, it was 12, and then they allowed local options to go up to $18,000. I believe the city of Boston is either 14 or 15,000. There are a lot of communities that have raised the base. There are some counties that are at $18,000 base. But again, it's a cost to the system, the public pension systems. There's fully funding schedule mandates, and there is a cost to COLAs. Retirees and their beneficiaries deserve a raise, and I think they try to do it in proportion and try to keep it balanced. The Mass Retirees is a vocal voice for increasing of COLA bases, and a lot have done it. The stock market over the last few years have done well. The systems have done well. A lot of them are in the 70 to 80% funded range. This year, the retirement systems are down 10 to 12%. Let's hope the stock market recovers a little bit, but most retirement boards use what they call asset smoothing. They take the gains and losses over 5 years, so you don't get these big spikes. So that's kind of the long answer to the $13,000. Any other questions? Social Security collecting? One more? Yes, sir.
I have heard, this may be incorrect, that some states have this, other states do not. I had a aunt who was retired as a teacher, as a gym teacher in New Jersey. She said she got Social Security and a pension, was not offset.
That's true. There's 12 or 13 states that are affected by the GPO and WEP. There are others that pay simultaneously into a pension fund and pay Social Security at the same time. For years, I don't know where it is now, the MBTA paid into Social Security and a pension fund. So if you retired from the MBTA at 23 and a half years used to be the max pension, you already had 23 and a half years of substantial earnings in. So outside of the MBTA, we're all subject to the WEP and GPO Massachusetts and about 12 other states.
So could we change the law in Massachusetts, or would that be federal?
You could change the law, but what happens is it's so costly to the towns, it could affect future COLA for retirees. It could affect your pension benefits because there's the employee and the employer portion. Our public pension funds are cheaper than Social Security, but our benefits are much better than Social Security.
Interesting.
Hang on if anyone has any specialized or individual questions, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Frank.
Valuable information.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give Frank Zika a round of applause. That's absolute valuable information. God willing, we all make it to retirement, but these are all the essential pieces, that in our golden years that we can certainly benefit from. But these are necessary conversations. And again, we are hoping to make this year's convention as informative as possible. Folks, should we take a 5-minute break? Does anybody need a break? Okay, well, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll reconvene if folks have to use the facilities. Thank you for your patience. We'll get through this, but I want to thank all the participants on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Facebook Live, as well as the folks that are still here at this convention. At this time, I'd just like to briefly explain, again, in the spirit of enhancing membership benefits and directly related to the tragedy at Holyoke and Chelsea Soldiers Home, living through the worst period in history, living through COVID and the pandemic itself. We lost 75 veterans at the Holyoke Soldiers Home and approximately 30 veterans in Chelsea. Our workers, our direct care workers, were directly affected by this horrific and traumatic incident. Our direct care workers absolutely forged relationships with the veterans' families, lifelong friends. It was unbelievably cumbersome on behalf of our members, and as soon as I took office, almost 2 years ago, we began the coalition build in Holyoke and Chelsea Soldiers Home on behalf of On-Site Academy. On-Site Academy is a facility that essentially was built on behalf of public safety and folks that were directly affected by the Worcester Cold Storage fires back in the 80s. The Boston bombing, and the 911 emergency responders. They essentially, On-Site Academy brings these folks in, provides them long-term counsel and care, and to my dismay, On-Site Academy was under a federal grant. That grant exhausted itself in 2020. We dove in along with business reps in our local and coalition build with the MNA, with NAGE, and SEIU 509, and we directly brought a one-time payment of $500,000 to On-Site Academy. And I can tell you, as I'm standing here right now, that will be our next legislative agenda on behalf of Holyoke and Chelsea. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tom Greenhall. He's a state board clinician on behalf of On-Site Academy. And what we want to do here, after hiring Tony Landry, a 20-year dispatcher with Boston PD. Tony has been a champion on behalf of peer support, and we're looking to roll out a peer support 888 program here, and we're going to use all the institutional knowledge that Tom Greenhall possesses. So if we can give him a round of applause. And I appreciate Tom being here today.
Thank you. Man, this is tough for me because I'm a wanderer. To stand at a podium, you're going to see me bouncing. By the way, I'm a little scared, nothing personal, but I come in here and they said the men's room's down the hall, and I found a fertility clinic, and I don't want that rubbing off on me. I'm sorry, that's not my gig. So welcome for being here this afternoon. I really appreciate you hanging out. I know when the conferences come in the afternoon after the food's done, people usually bug out. They're kind of tired of what's going on, and they want to get out of here, so to stay here for this, I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be asked to be here and give you this information to help you with your careers and your personal lives. That's what this is all about. I've watched over the years so many people in helping professions, whether it's public safety, military, or just public service in general, don't make it to the finish line. I'm in my 40th year of public safety. I retired from my full-time stuff. It'll be 6 years coming up in December. But I still work law enforcement as a paramedic, and I work in the fire service. So I've had a chance to play with all, and in all jobs, I get to be a dispatcher on top of it. So I get to stick my fingers in all the different pies, so to speak, over my career. And that's what I try to share, bringing forth to you folks, the lessons learned. I've watched people I've worked with not finish their career. They've lost their lives to alcoholism, divorce, financial ruin, and suicide. And it's unacceptable. And so when we get a chance to come out and share this information with folks, it's really passion of mine to do this. I figured out the other day, someone asked me how long I've been doing this. And then I knew I was old because they said about 38. I'm like, holy crap, when did that happen? I thought it was like 6 years ago. So something changed on me.
So let's see if this is gonna work from back here. We're giving this a shot. Of course not. Do you mind? Thank you. So some of the stuff, anytime I do these presentations, I always have to make this statement up front. I don't know your histories coming into this. And some of the things we may talk about, things I ask you to think about, may open up doors to your past a little bit. All I need is a commitment from everyone. If we do that, please make an agreement that you'll talk to somebody. Either someone in here, myself, I'll hang around when we're done, someone outside of here, it doesn't matter. But don't sit there and start doing the gulps and trying to shove it back down again. How many times have you ever done that in your life? Too many, absolutely. We just try to work our way through it, right? Suck it up kind of thing. Yeah, let's not do that, okay? We good on that? Because I'm not here to harm anybody. Thank you. So, trauma. All of our jobs have some aspect of this. Whether it's frontline work or it's more the behind scenes work, you still have exposure. And the mental health community's finally figured out that you don't need to be actually on scene of these bad things, right? How many is, and I use the example of the 911, the towers falling. How many have seen the planes hit the towers at this point? How many have seen it at least 30 to 50 times at this point?
Yeah.
There's a thing called vicarious traumatization. Your neurophysiology will absorb that. And I've actually worked with people that have decompensated as if they were standing in the streets of New York that day. Because they took it in and absorbed it so strongly. So we always think it has to be the person on the street that's going to be impacted. I just worked this week with someone up at the onsite, and the trauma for that person that was beating her up was watching videos of traumatic scenes. And she personalized what was going on. And that was all it took, and put her in a dark place. So again, you know, we respect all your jobs, whatever you do here, because everyone has a role in public service. So this is some of the data with trauma, because we all have it. And it's funny, when I went to clinical school, very ironic, they said every single person in the world has a trauma history, whether it's childhood, adulthood, whatever it is. And I was like, awesome. So we're going to learn about trauma, right? So in a social work program, it's 2 years full-time, 4 years part-time. I did mine in 3 because I was still working. How much training do you think they gave you in trauma? What would you guess? It was an elective in the summer, 1 week, 40 hours in a building with no air conditioning. Anyone signing up for that? Shouldn't that be a mandatory class? If you're telling everyone I meet has got some kind of history like that, let's be prepared.
Right.
And it wasn't there. And so, you know, we have to really take our time to vet out the people we seek services from, because not everyone's getting the proper training to deal with the issues that we all face.
Correct.
Right? So we have to make sure it's a good match, really, what it comes down to. So this information came out, and you just take a look at some of the data here. People exposed to trauma, because I just said everyone has it. Everyone has varying degrees of it. Depending where you're at, you may be up on this slide. Right? Maybe there's an addiction, a self-medication issue, because I just can't deal with the stuff that's running around my head. I don't want to see this or hear this anymore. How many have ever had that happen? Where maybe you see something and it keeps poking its TB, is what I call it, in your face. Close your eyes, it's right there. Or maybe it's something you heard one day, right? Those kind of things. We have tools to get those out. You don't have to suffer with it. That was 20 years ago, where you would talk about it and that would be all we could do for you. But literally, some of the advanced trauma techniques, I call them my voodoo techniques, right, laughingly, that literally in 60 to 90 minutes, a lot of times in one session, we take that stuff out. So you don't have to, as my buddy that I worked with, he's a 24-year corpsman with 12 deployments under his belt. Very intense kid. When I met him, the traumas he saw of war, he said, we're always staring at him. And when we finished one session, he went, they're over here now. They're not looking at me anymore, but I can go look at it. And I don't have that kick in the backside that I once had. Would that be powerful for people?
Yes.
You know, some of the advancements that we're coming up with, I have a friend in Pennsylvania I've been working with now 4.5 years on a project. I'm actually finishing up a doctorate in natural medicine right now, because it's a piece that we need for wellness that no one's talking about. And we've created a process where you come in with your trauma, what it is, and we can clear it. And we're having really good success so far. Is that kind of weird? So think about that. If you're, say, a sexual assault victim, no one wants to tell that story to me, but you don't have to. You focus on it for a minute. I'll get what I need through technology and such, and we'll clear that. And then people tell me the story.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Define clear. Define the word clear as you're using it in this context.
So when we say clear, we want to get out of here,
Okay,
right? It's over here again.
okay.
Some of the stuff that we utilize, the images you had, they can't even pull them up again. I've had that happen. So I'm very cautious when I work with someone, say, that has to testify in court, that's maybe victimized. Because now if they go in they're up on the stand, they say, tell me what happened. They go, I can't picture it. Then you create another trauma for that person. So there's different times and places for the tools we have. But the bottom line is you don't have to live with all that stuff the way we once did. That's important. That's the future.
Thank you.
So I didn't bring all the handouts because I didn't know how many people were going to be here. If you go to my nonprofit website, that's the web address. There's a download, it's under the COVID banner. And it's signs and symptoms of stress. Doesn't mean you have to have these things, but if you see them, they're not outside the box of normalcy. And that's important. This is not word search. I gave this to someone one day, they pulled out a pen, they just started circling all of them. And I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. Now, also, let's say you don't have any of those, right? Can that happen? Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with you. People think there's something wrong because they're not upset. You've just learned how to manage it for you the way you need to get through these things.
Right.
All right? So feel free to download. It's a free thing. And it's there for everybody. So critical incident is something that you perceive as critical to you. It's not someone else's script. We have a handful of things that we know internationally are critical incidents for people and going to ring the bell, so to speak. But quite often, you can have an incident where 20 people are there, great, and one person's really having a tough time. There's no harm, no foul to that, right? Everyone's going to judge you by your reactions. And that's the one thing I find with this stuff. If I'm having a bad day, people tend to pigpile on you, especially in public safety, right? It's like fresh meat, here we go. And so for that matter, people won't say anything. The stigma piece, right? How many people would be embarrassed or afraid to say something at work? We've got to move past that,
Yes.
right? That's how we're going to fix this. So these are the top 10 critical incidents for uniformed services internationally. And this data comes from the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation. Nothing beats a line of duty death. You know, one of your coworkers in the act of their service dies, whether it be by someone else's hand. Now we're finding things like maybe a heart attack in the midst of the job, right? Those types of things are equally as traumatic for our folks. Ranks number 2. And because that pops up the whole question of would have, should have, and could have. Right? How many people have had someone that they know in their life at their own hands? And how many of you carry guilt about that in some fashion? Right? I always say when we do these suicide interventions, we get a clear picture in the aftermath because we all sit and talk. But on the front side, we're not doing routine weekly check-ins on everybody. Right? And so ultimately, it's that person's decision. And we have to come to that place. It's tough. I'm not telling you anything easy.
And suicide is up at this current time, it seems like as a result of COVID.
Yeah, the problem we have with the suicide right now is the data is always a few years behind. So the latest numbers are 2019.
Wow.
What they did see, there was some ancillary bump ups early on, you know, because of the isolation, depression, all those types of things. The military had a bump up in suicide, but they said it wasn't COVID. So we'll wait and see. We have another couple of years before we get all those numbers out to give you a true picture.
Yes, sir.
Third one, dead children. Nothing's going to beat that. Prolonged field rescue, where you're trying to resuscitate someone perhaps, or care for someone and make that really close connection, such as the soldier's home. When that happens, you know, you mentioned that earlier. I was very honored that my partner, Kristen Leary, was doing her clinical internship at the time, and she basically rang the bell and said, people are in trouble. And as a result of that, they spun up an office for the two of us in the soldier's home for over a year. We still actually kept the clinical office in Westfield out there in case someone needs something. So those resources are there for folks, but there was a lot of this type of stuff, that really close bond, that really ruins things, right? Mass casualty, a lot of people unfortunately passing. If you know the person, that's huge. As soon as I personalize these events, that defeats my defense mechanisms. When your safety is unusually jeopardized, what did COVID do? In the first weeks, at least. Everyone has a varying degree of what that meant. But in the first few weeks, how many people thought we're all gonna die? Right? That was the messaging coming across, but you had to go to work anyways,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And now if you didn't get the vaccine, you don't have a job for some places, right? So we're dealing with those issues across the board. Admin betrayal, this could be real and perceived, but this is basically, why didn't my agency, my boss, whoever's above you, and this applies to everyone from the brand new person to the number one lead of your agency, because everyone answers to somebody. And again, real or perceived, but why did they say this? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they have my back?
Yes.
That we find is more troublesome than the actual incident itself.
Yep.
Because I don't expect to have to worry about that. I used to joke on my job, I said I wore my ballistic vest backwards because I needed the strike plate between my shoulder blades. Right? Sad commentary, isn't it? But the more people, how many people feel like your threat is inside your building, not outside as much, right? And of course, media coverage, and then if there's a firearm. So these are the top 10 that we know across the globe that really rent space for people, particularly the first three. So what are you gonna do about it? Let's give you some resources, right? Because we don't want to just talk about bad stuff happening. We're not even going to get into the physiologic effects too much today, because I don't want to depress everybody on a Saturday afternoon. You'll get that when you try to drive home in the traffic I just drove through. Don't worry. Good. So we have what we call in Massachusetts, the Mass State Peer Support Network. Under the model, every city and town in Massachusetts has a team assigned to it, broken up by fire districts, for all uniformed personnel and their families to provide services on a volunteer basis, free of charge to you, within a response time of 90 minutes. And it's been there since 1999. I hear a lot of things in my work about there's nothing out there for people in uniforms or in public service. Fortunately, there is, and we have for a long time. Go ahead.
For law enforcement entities, if they took therapy and stuff like that, could that affect their cases in the future? Could they use that, the fact that you took therapy, you're not reliable on the stand?
Yeah.
Could they do that? I was always curious about that, because you're right, the stigma, especially with law enforcement and firefighters, especially law enforcement,
Right.
that would be the first thing I would be thinking about when I went to go help is, could they find this and use it when I'm on the trial or something?
It's a great question. I don't think it's been tested to my knowledge.
Right.
So I'm hoping we don't go down that road, but we do a lot of this work in a confidential, actually. So in part of this network, after the marathon bombing, legislation was passed that said if you're part of this network, communication with people under the umbrella of the network, that whole conversation is privileged now. It's not just confidential, which means it's essentially HIPAA for mental health.
Correct.
So that conversation didn't occur. The only thing we can't protect, homicide, suicide, mandated reporting, and crimes. Other than that, we never talked. And I'm really good about forgetting. All right, sir.
I would like to just add one codicil for that you say for uniformed people. There are civilians who work in police departments, such as myself, who worked at beautiful downtown area B2, otherwise known as Dodge City. One year we had 100 homicides in the city. There were 12 stations, 50 of them were on us.
Yep.
I would hope that this would also include civilians who work at.
We take care of all the people attached to public safety. We take care of all the people attached to public safety.
All being something other than a deterrent.
Yep. That's a good thing. I can't disclose all the details, but there have been some international incidents here. I'll just leave it at that, where we've come in and after the uniform's done, we actually have a family support team. We have a team for the dispatchers. we take care of civilian employees within these public safety agencies because they're part of the family
Correct.
and they need to be taken care of.
Correct.
It's really simple. So we have it. It's still building, but we're there. So these are two main incidents that really triggered off that whole deal, how we started that. So a young child, 9 years old, in February '99, the head of EOPS at the time was Jane Perloff, and she was involved in the search for this child in the blizzard. And she said, I want this for all uniform services in Mass, figure it out. I'm like, that's not asking much. So long story short of it, they went to all the letter agencies, and they all said, we like it, but we can't do it. But the fire marshal said, I will. He said, but there's going to be two rules. If I ever get any money for this, if I get $1, I won't take anything. I'll pass it out to the teams for operations. And it will serve every uniform in their family in this Commonwealth. The marshal subsequent holds that as well. So that's a big undertaking. That's the umbrella which gives us authority as a state agency. And then the Worcester Cold Storage Fire, where the 6 firefighters were lost, that kind of spun it up, and that really brought about the family support unit.
Right.
So those places, those things are there. So the model we use in Massachusetts, what you might hear is the Mitchell model. It's Jeff Mitchell who created this stuff, late 70s, early 80s. He was a firefighter EMT, and he realized there was nothing out there for public safety. At the time, it was suicide, if you were lucky, suicide prevention, and AA. That was about it. There was no sit down with a peer. But he went through some incidents, and his brother was a New York firefighter, and conversations with his brother helped him figure out that the peer thing was really what we needed. And so we've carried that model forth. It is the standard of care in Massachusetts. So today, we've grown now, there's 23 teams. There's those teams broken up by fire district. There's also what we call the specialty or ancillary teams. So as an example, they're large enough to support their own Boston Police, Boston Fire, Boston EMS, Mass State Police, Department of Corrections, Worcester EMS. So there's a handful of those type of teams, the dispatch team. You know, Tony did phenomenal work because some of those regional teams had dispatch personnel, some didn't. And he took the bull by the horn and said, we're going to change that.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, you do give him a round if you would. So he's not just a good guy hiding behind the mask today. By the way, if you're not familiar, he just had a baby a couple of weeks ago. That has nothing to do with COVID. He's just drooling on himself trying to catch one. So under this system, we have two co-directors, both out of former Boston. One's a former Boston fire lieutenant. One's a former Boston police lieutenant. They were just elected by the board, just randomly. And then under that, we have a clinical director, that's Hayden Duggan from the onsite. He's the one that adds and provides guidance for us as we go through it. And of course, all the teams and such, every uniform is represented on that board. Tony's the representation for the telecommunication community. Okay. So here's some of the tools we bring to the game, depending on what's going on. We're not going to get into them all today, but there's a whole list of stuff in the toolbox for before an incident, during an incident, or after an incident. People always think we have to wait till weeks later and a boss has to call. It's not the way the system works. Anyone that works with the uniformed services groups or your family member has the right to call 24/7 for support. All right, so don't think I have to wait for, my supervisor, or we can't do this. I can't tell you how many times we did this in spite of a supervisor, right? Because we still need to get it done.
That's right.
So, self-care. Everyone's looking for the magic pill all the time. What can I do that's quick and fix? It's not there. Hate to tell you, and I'm guilty of it as anyone else. I look at my schedule some days and go, self-care, yeah, I know I gotta fit that in there somewhere, right? It's a must, it's not an option.
Right.
I want you to think, I think it's in the next slide. What I want, yeah, the Eustis. How many times do you ever say when I go, hey, what do you do for fun? Well, I used to. And then you rattle off 6 things. I'm going to challenge you today. Takeaway. I want you to go to your used to list and pull one of them up and bring it back. You want to take care of yourself? That's where you begin. Because it's always the good stuff for ourselves that we give up because we're always serving someone else.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the web address for the state network. I just redid the list last night. It should be posted by Monday. But the teams that are under the network that have that privileged right are listed. It's a download file that will be there. There are teams out there that are not under the network. They do not have that level of privilege. So there's a potential that they could be compelled to testify on a stand, right, legally, because we've had cases challenged in the Commonwealth in the past. So just be careful, talk to anybody you want, whoever you're comfortable with, just know the limits of that protection that may or may not be there, okay? It's just the legal stuff, unfortunately, we have to do. Last slide. So, okay, there we go. Anyone have any questions? That's the Reader's Digest version of this stuff. Sir?
I'm curious if you work with private EMS too, or just?
Absolutely. The last couple of years, COVID, as part of the grant we received through Onsite, we started up a program for AMR in Western Mass, which grew into New England. And I've been through 3 different private ambulances in the last year training them, because I get to serve, I'm really honored the last 11 years as this network's training director. So I get to go around and do these, and I have a list of more private EMS on the docket for this year. Long overdue, because they've been neglected.
Yeah.
Sure.
Dave?
A few years back, there was a policeman named Joseph Wambaugh who wrote novels about police work in Los Angeles. He wrote a nonfiction book called The Onion Field about 2 police officers kidnapped. One was murdered, the other one escaped. And the one who escaped ended up becoming very guilty, thinking he didn't do something. I don't know if you know the book or seen the movie, but this is exactly what they should have had back then. Of course, back then, policemen were never wrong. They never did anything wrong. It's always someone else's fault, usually his. I don't know if you know the book or seen it.
I've heard of it, I've not read it.
Perfect example of what they should have had then, 1963 or.
Well, that's way back, but like people will tell us there's nothing out there for people in public safety. The On-Site Academy, which is where I really learned how to do this, because it's the residential extension of what we do in the field in terms of peer support. 30 years this year in existence as a nonprofit. It's up in the hills of Westminster. You wouldn't find it unless we told you, because you're on a gravel road thinking your GPS broke.
I hope you get publicity, because they say you can have the world's greatest organization. If people don't know it exists, you might as well not.
Hayden and I have had this conversation. So Hayden Duggan is the gentleman that started it. He's a Harvard doc. He never brags on himself. I always brag for him. He's a Harvard doc, written books on this stuff. He was a deputy fire chief. He was an intermediate paramedic, but he rolled it back to being a basic because he's a little busy. And he still works a shift a week on Barry Rescue, and I believe he's going to be 76 in December.
Wow.
He is the guy that really boots on the ground. And so this stuff has been there for 30 years to support our folks. We've had people from all over the world. But one of his things was we don't want to do too much advertising because we don't want people that shouldn't be there showing up. Right? We have a lot of people that have been through some really tough things. The last thing they need is a news crew out in front of the property.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's not heavily, it's within our group that we get the word out.
Within the family.
Yes.
Hi. So I kind of brought up something like this before, to the candidates that are running. So the program that you're describing, I believe, is needed in a lot of communities.
Absolutely.
You know, some children, minority children, you know, they're in neighborhoods where there's been gun violence, the kids have seen all this stuff, and no team comes in there, and then they're just expected to go on with their lives.
Right.
But in the neighborhoods, in certain situations, they could have covered probably 5 or 6 of those listed items. And, you know, I would really hope that even the union maybe would have something for peer support. This kind of organization is just needed basically worldwide. Get the tension down, you know, at least let some people be free. You know, when they have a shooting, they should have a community room they can go in, debrief about it, instead of bottling it up and carrying it on to the next task.
You're exactly right. And there's varying degrees, like this model I talk about, the ICSF, it is standard in many countries, actually standard of care for the United Nations.
Oh, okay.
So it's well vetted out. Jeff Mitchell and George Everly, the 2 doctors that basically created the foundation of this whole concept, They've done a phenomenal job of getting it out there, and we have people everywhere that do it, but there's more to be done, without question, especially in today's world. So,
First, Justin, I'm glad that you brought that up. See, here in Boston, we have rich resources, and I'm blessed for that. One of those resources is what you just spoke about. We have teams in the city of Boston after a traumatic incident respond, provide services for all the survivors or those that are known to them. So I thought that was done everywhere, but unfortunately, based on what you're saying, it's not. And that is a tragedy within itself, because our team that we go out there, we're on the streets, we're engaging the secondary trauma individual, the primaries and so forth. I'm just really saddened to know that that's not throughout everywhere, and based on some of the things you're saying. So, keep letting people know, keep challenging the political arena too, a reference to trauma. But thank you for bringing that up.
and there are civilian trauma groups out there, not just this one, that address what you're talking about, the community issues. So they do exist, but they're not as well distributed as we like.
You talked about that legal issue. So for me, when I'm out there, I try to stay away from all the legal, the actual incident, the criminal aspect of it. When they start talking about that, I try to redirect them so that I don't hear anything that could bring me into court. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, basically, I keep it simple when I train people. When you start an intervention, just let the person know what the limits of the, I keep it really simple. If there's anything you have any sense that you would never want shared, don't say it. You get to control the conversation. I'm not going to dig. Right? You say what you need to say. This is about you today.
Absolutely.
That's
Over there.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry.
Ma'am?
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I just was wondering if you could show us how to get to that worksheet that you had earlier a second time?
I'm not logged in. If we can go back to that slide, please. Right there. Even I can read that one.
Yeah, Tom, we'll keep that up. You can take a photo of it.
There you go.
Is that on our website?
No, but we will put it up.
You're the man.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your presentation. On the previous slide, I noticed there was, a graphic that had talked about you're more likely at 15 times more. And it had mentioned committing suicide. I don't know if you heard, my wife used to work in the mental health area, and I guess the common terminology would be more die by suicide, not commit. There's a negative connotation with that. I don't know if you've heard that, but it can be triggering to people who might have had suicidal ideations or kind of the thought around committing it versus dying by suicide. So bringing it up, I was educated on that. I had never heard that.
So we have ideation, you have a gesture, you have an attempt, and now it's completion. So the whole idea of a successful suicide, that language disappeared a long time ago, to your point. The other one that we need academic support and the research is helpful, but there's a suicide by cop where the person does an act where the officer has to engage and take the life. And academia said that's harmful to an officer, so they call it victim precipitated homicide.
Yes.
I've yet to meet an officer that says that's going to make me feel better.
And that may be true, but because I noticed that too, that it would be the individual engaging the cop, but they keep saying cop involved shooting. I know for me, anytime I hear cop involved shooting, I'm thinking a cop initiated. But in some cases, it's the individual that initiates the shooting. So you can't really say cop involved shooting. I'm starting to say the citizen involved cop shooting backwards. So just little jargons that I try to change around.
If I may say, everything that you heard today from all of the speakers, this is essentially what 888 is looking to build out, whether it's legal protections, enhanced legal protections for our folks, as well as peer support. And we want to absolutely remain cognizant, to a healthy mindset and be cognizant of mental health benefits. And this is exactly why we brought Tom Greenhall here today. And this is why we're looking to forge a long-lasting partnership with Onsite Academy. Onsite Academy was under a federal grant that's since exhausted itself in 2020. I'm dumbfounded and flabbergasted that the state hasn't had a commitment to Onsite Academy thus far. But, here at Local 888, we're certainly going to, that's our next legislative agenda, and we're going to make sure that that Onsite Academy is properly financed, so, and the state has a commitment, to increase our mental health benefits and a wide array of departments and agencies that folks work at.
Thank you. So if you have questions about the Onsite Academy, somebody asked me, I have brochures, that little brown box on the desk in the center. The brochures for Onsite, so you can learn more about that.
Awesome.
Alrighty? Thanks for your participation.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom Greenhall. Thank you. So I want to thank everybody, online as well as here in our conference room here. Thank you for attending this our convention. It's been long-winded, but all of the information that you saw today and heard today is everything that we're trying to build out as a new administration on behalf of the members of Local 888. So at this time, we have a resolution to present our folks here in attendance as well as online. If I may ask our very own e-board member and retiree, Rachel Idawu, to help me present the resolution. Anita Christensen, who is our recording secretary. No, Christensen. Christensen. Kristen. Anita Kristen. And Lorna Herron. Forgive me, it's been a long day, but thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
afternoon. We are part of the Racial Justice Committee, and we have presented this morning to the e-board and now presenting to you this afternoon a resolution concerning racial justice and the position that we as a local should take. I will read the resolution. Whereas the continuous disparities across America regarding Black and brown people have reached crisis levels. And whereas Black and brown communities, their generations, and their supporters across America are outraged by the disparate treatment, the killings, the driving, the walking, etc., while Black, are now raising up generations that include the working class and organized labor. To acknowledge these disparities must cease and desist. And whereas Black and brown workers make up part of the collective workforce that is responsible for producing public and human services and well understand the devastating impact that racism has on our communities. And whereas Black and brown communities, their generations, and their supporters understand the term racism, and that this is a term that has existed in many households in Black and brown communities across America for many generations. And whereas Black and brown people are negatively affected by tensions, fears, the environment, the growing recession, the economy, but mainly the lack of safety from a hate crime or killing as they travel to and from their places of employment, schools, jobs, social events, and everyday living. And whereas, even in the 21st century, Black and brown communities feel the threat of discrimination in housing, education, employment, healthcare, credit, services, and treatment in public places. And whereas disparate policies will not be tolerated by SEIU, Local 888, or the chapters and units which SEIU Local 888 represents. We preach solidarity, and now is the time to take a stand as well as act on that word.
Yes.
Therefore be it resolved, SEIU Local 888 hereby creates a committee on racial justice, whose purpose will be to educate, organize, and mobilize Local 888 members, staff, and leaders on the issues of racial injustices and disparities, and will work towards stopping racial attacks on Black and brown communities and advance policies for racial equity. Therefore, be it further resolved, this committee will work with other allies in the community and the workplace, and include others in the labor movement who have been under attack and will address these attacks. Be it finally resolved, the Executive Board of SEIU Local 888 hereby declares that the struggle for racial justice is of paramount importance to the goals and aspirations of its members, as well as all working people of Black and brown communities and their generations. This resolution has been submitted for your consideration with the members of the Committee of Racial Justice. We stand and ask that you consider this, because this represents us all.
So as the president of Local 888, our e-board has already adopted such a resolution, but we put it to the membership. So at this time, I will present the resolution on behalf of what Rachel Idawu has read. So all in favor of passing this resolution of racial justice, say aye.
Aye!
Any no's?
Bring it to vote.
You didn't bring it to
You didn't bring it to a vote.
You gotta bring it to a vote. Ask them their pleasure.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, bring it to a vote.
Pleasure. What's that?
Asking them what?
Their pleasure.
A motion. You take a
You
motion.
gotta name the motion.
A motion to approve.
I motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Fred Simmons.
And who else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye!
Any no's? Any abstentions? The motion passes.
Yay! Good job.
Okay, so thank you again for your patience. We have one last piece related to this program. Folks, we essentially have heroes among us, heroes among, our chapters, folks that go beyond the call of duty as it relates to their being members here at Local 888 and within their personal lives. As the president of Local 888, I'd like to recognize Shirley Shillingford. Please stand to be recognized. Shirley is a 47-year City of Boston employee. Shirley goes beyond the call of duty. You're employed by the Boston Public Health Commission, and Shirley, she owner and operator of Shirley's Pantry on 218 River Street in Mattapan. Shirley essentially makes the most delicious cakes, sausage rolls, and sandwiches, and feeds the hungry and the poor within the community. So, Shirley.
Good morning, good afternoon. This is indeed an honor for me to accept this. I'm accepting it on behalf of my other staff. But I just want to say that, especially during the COVID and from last year, September to now, we have fed 15,000 people. The department says that I have a passion, but the passion is when you know people are in need and can fix those needs. I have been working for the city now for 47 years. I should have been retired a long time ago, but I love my job. I love the people that I serve, and I love to make a difference. And I just want to say thanks to our union because they are very, very, very supportive to me in that pantry. Not only feeding people, but with the toy drive and book drive, purse and wipes for our clients. I cannot express my sincere gratitude to all of you for supporting us in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Local 888 pledges to be more of an active participant in Shirley's Pantry, and Shirley, I can't thank you enough for coming today. So, as it relates to heroes among us, if I may say, if I could tell you a brief story, we have a member. She's a dispatcher from BPD. Her name is Monica Colston. Monica went beyond the call of duty as it relate, with her duties, roles, and responsibilities as a dispatcher. She received a call in April of this year, and a resident that travels on the MBTA train system, I believe it might have been the red line or the green line, fell into a void in the back bay station of downtown Boston. This victim was so disoriented and had not a clue where he was, and was just seriously hurt. Monica stayed on the call with this victim for over an hour and essentially just kept on reassuring him that first responders are on the way. You're going to be okay. And she was able to orient exactly where this victim was by a series and a round of questions. And they were able to determine that he can hear highway noise, and you can also see construction material. That was able to narrow down for the first responders. There he was, and ultimately he was extracted and transported. There was no life-threatening injuries, but they were very, very serious. I'd like to recognize Monica Colston for her efforts as a dispatcher. All right, without further ado, so again, heroes among us, is there any Chelsea or Holyoke Soldiers Homes folks? If you could stand to be recognized, please.
I want to say thanks to all of you to be here.
Come on up, Elmer. Rosa, please.
Yeah.
Good job through the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
speak down over.
Pull the mics down.
Pull the mic down a little bit.
Audio.
And that's
Oh, this-
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Just want to say on behalf of Chelsea Soldier Home and of the Chelsea community, thanks to be here. What we went through to the COVID-19, we really appreciate the union for whatever they done for us. I mean, it was stressful for all employers. You know, I can't speak up for them, but it's a lot of us. It went through a stress.
Yes, sir.
And they all we felt it because our coworkers, they went to a tough time.
Yes.
And we fell to the community. I'm sorry, but we all break down.
Yes.
But thank you to be here. And I'm pretty proud to be as a union member. And I will never quit the union because the union stand up for us.
Thank you very much for the invitation today. I thank you at all for participation. Everybody there, so the home is member too. I work it together. Not talk too much, but not feel good. I thank you. Thank you for support.
So again, I get very emotional about that as well because, Holyoke Soldiers Home lost 75 veterans and Chelsea lost approximately 30. And our members were direct care workers. Elmer is a prep cook, and from every aspect, from Local 888, we feel that he's a direct care worker as well. And Rosa, she's housekeeping. They developed and forged these relationships with the veterans and their families that unfortunately passed away. So it was very, very traumatic on behalf of both homes, and we want to support and lift our folks in these dark times, and that's exactly why we're forging partnerships with Onsite Academy, and mental health is real, but we want to make sure that all of our workers remain strong and healthy. And so at this time, that concludes the Heroes Among Us. I greatly appreciate everyone showing up to be recognized. Thank you, Shirley. Jocelyn, did you have something?
Yeah, I want to add to that. I don't really want to say what department I work for because I put myself out there, but before COVID happened,
They can't hear you on the line.
Jocelyn, come on up.
I'll come up there, and then you'll figure out where I work.
And it's a microphone.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Jocelyn Cody, everyone.
So I want to just add to that. I do work for Veteran Services, and it was a tremendous tragedy. But what I want to add is I met this gentleman right here that was just up here speaking, and before COVID happened, he was meeting with the union trying to get better conditions at the Soldiers Home in Holyoke, to the meeting and them advocating. So, I know that you were impacted by that because when it happened, all I kept saying is, they was trying to meet with the higher ups, coordinate a meeting, because they needed more than what they were getting. But 888 was actually leading that way for that. And I just wanted to add, I guess I got my hand a little bit of everyone in the community.
So before we convene, I'd just like to offer up a couple words. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for participating online. And Anita, did you have something? Yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me.
So I just
Our
want
recording secretary, everyone.
So I just wanted to acknowledge Johannes. He was very instrumental in sitting with us, helping us out when we were meeting on the racial equity stuff. And so I just wanted to acknowledge you and say thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Anita. So, it's under this new administration, I can tell you that we're very passionate, and we are out there fighting the good fight. I'm essentially a business rep. I'm out there as much as I can, and we're trying to increase our visibility here with the local. And many of you have already seen me out in the field, and I'll continue to stay out in the field because your thoughts and your grievances are my thoughts. I want to hear from all of you, and together, honestly, we're going to build this union bigger, better, and stronger. We constantly, consistently fight the powerful and defend the powerless. We provide a voice for the voiceless, and we will continue to fight this fight. And I assure you, these, the contracts that we're ratifying now and the contracts that we're concluding are just the foundations of better contracts to come. So I thank you all for coming today, and this is the end of our program. I appreciate it. Our trustee, Laura Herron, she is the national treasurer.
It makes me so happy.
The AFRAM caucus, and we're so happy to have her here as our member and our leader. And I thank you. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, Laura! Next one, thank you all for coming.
It makes me so happy whenever I walk into a room and I see purple. I know I'm in the right place. I know I'm on the right side. I know it's about justice. It's about fighting for people. It's about all the things that are good that we are going to get after, and I want to get after even more as your governor. I just want to give an acknowledgement and a shout out to all of you, because for far too long you have borne the disproportionate burden of systemic racism, of injustice, of marginalization. And I understand the critical importance of treating our workers around this state with dignity and respect. You will get that from me as governor. You see, I think you get to the best answers by listening to people, by talking to people, by hearing from them about what really matters, what really needs to change. But we don't get there, and I don't get there, and I will not be the kind of governor that you all deserve unless you know that I am committing to you right now that you will always have a seat at our table. We don't go forward unless we do this together. It would be a tremendous privilege and an honor to put together a team and administration to serve you and to move the state forward to a place we haven't seen yet, but a place that's been necessary and needed for so long. God bless all of you, and thanks again for having me.
There's a reason so many Democrats support Kim Driscoll for lieutenant governor. Kim took on the old boys club to become the first woman elected mayor of Salem. Mayor Driscoll transformed Salem, making government more effective and inclusive.
Mayors get stuff done, and that's the experience we need on Beacon Hill.
Now, Kim's endorsed by Planned Parenthood, Labor, and progressives. For lieutenant governor, choose the Democrat with the most experience, Mayor Kim Driscoll.
To get stuff done, branch of government, you need a team approach. We know something about teamwork. If you want a team that makes your Massachusetts more affordable, work working hard to create jobs and growth, that's going to be a team that knows what it's like to bring people together.
This is Springfield, home for basketball. Basketball is a team game, and this is what it's about. It's people working together at the local, state, and federal level to get things done, move us forward.
Diana DiZaglio is absolutely fearless.
Born to a 17-year-old mother, Diana DiZaglio grew up housing insecure. After being sexually harassed and forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement, Diana fought to end these secret deals for other victims.
I'm Diana DiZaglio. I've stood up to Beacon Hill's most powerful politicians to fight for transparency, accountability, and equity. And I'll continue to stand up for you as your next state auditor.
Diana will be the people's auditor.